They say a woman's power lives in her hair. But what if it's become a chain?
MIRA.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They told me to keep it long because long hair means beauty. They told me to keep it long, but nobody said it had to make sense. Do you want the details?
Long hair means obedience. Not anymore.
Not today. Today. I see you. I can't. Not again.
But power isn't something you wear.
It's not a gift. Not something you'd given.
So, you're done sitting still.
Standing changes everything. People notice when you shift. They don't forget it. You carry it like it belongs to someone else. Every knot is a choice. Every twist a piece of you.
You always watch it like this.
It feels alive, as if it's breathing with us.
Everything is easier in the quiet.
You're restless. But I wonder, is it the dark that unsettles you, or me?
they always find their way back to me.
You've been searching for hours. You're unraveling yourself. Let me share the weight. Do you hear it too? Mira, I'm here. I'm here. Who are you? I don't know who I am anymore. I don't know who I am anymore.
Mira's hands rose slowly, almost mechanically, gathering her hair at the nape of her neck.
Hold still. They don't want to be held. Then what are they? You always make it look so effortless. Effortless is what years of trial and error look like. Still, you wear it like it was meant to be.
Childhood is a beautiful time, full of wonder and discovery, a time when every moment feels like a new adventure.
Long hair brings grace.
And respect.
Mira's small shoulders straightened slightly at the words.
The hum grows louder, filling the silence with a low, vibrating tension. Dust floats through the hallway, catching in the flicker of the fluorescent bulbs above. The air seems heavy, pressed down by decades of stories trapped in the peeling wallpaper and warped floorboards. Mira's footsteps echo softly, measured and deliberate, each one a gentle challenge to the oppressive quiet that clings to this forgotten place. Her shoes scuff against grainy linoleum, leaving faint marks that will vanish with the next shadow, the next shift in the light. She moves with a kind of practiced hesitation, as if she's walked this corridor before, in dreams or memories. Her gaze is fixed on the mirror, drawn to the unnatural dance of her reflection. The glass stretches and distorts her silhouette, making her seem thinner, taller, a stranger to herself. Her mirrored face blinks with a delay, a fraction of a second behind her real movements, like an echo that refuses to fade. As she raises a hand, the reflection lags, then snaps into place, a stutter in time that sends a chill through the air. The walls close in, painted a shade of pale green that's dulled by the years. Cracks spiderweb outward from the corners, swallowing the light and deepening the shadows. The fluorescent bulb above Mira flickers, buzzing with a nervous energy. The VHS lines roll down the screen again, vertical bands of static obscuring her face before fading just as quickly. The sense of being watched intensifies. There is something just out of sight, something that sees her even as she searches for it. Mira stops in front of the mirror, her breath shallow. She turns her head slowly, eyes scanning the hallway for movement, for any sign of life. The camera captures every detail, the tremor in her jaw, the tension in her shoulders, the way her fingers curl into her palm. She is both exposed and hidden, visible to an unseen lens, but invisible to anyone who might stumble upon this tape. The mirror seems to pulse with energy. its surface rippling as if caught in a breeze that the hallway cannot feel. A door creaks open somewhere beyond the frame, its sound muffled and distorted by the relentless hiss of the VHS. The noise is barely audible, a whisper drowned out by the static that crackles through the speakers. Mira's eyes widen, but she doesn't move. Her lips part, shaping words that never leave the tape, syllables lost in the analog distortion. The hum intensifies, settling deeper into the bones of the room, vibrating through the floor and the walls. Through Mira herself, she whispers something, soft, urgent, hopelessly fragmented. The tape struggles to capture her voice, burying it beneath layers of noise and interference. Only a single word emerges, half-formed and incomplete, swallowed by the hiss before it can be understood. Her eyes flicker to the camera, searching for connection, for some assurance that she is not alone in this haunted corridor. The footage blurs, colors bleeding into one another until all that remains is the stark whiteness of her eyes. The tape freezes, locking Mira in a moment of fear and uncertainty. Her gaze is direct, piercing, a silent plea that reverberates through the static. The room seems to hold its breath, waiting for something to happen, for the story to continue or end or simply unravel. Time stretches in the frozen frame. The hum softens, receding into the background, but the tension remains, a weight pressing on the chest, a reminder that something is not quite right. The hallway is still, the shadows unmoving, the mirror silent. Mira's reflection is caught in limbo, trapped between one heartbeat and the next, unable to catch up, unable to break free. As the image lingers, memories surface, uninvited and persistent. The hallway becomes a passageway through time, each flicker of light and roll of static a reminder of all that has been forgotten. The tape is old, worn thin by repeated viewings, by the relentless passage of years. Its story is incomplete, pieced together from fragments and glimpses, from half-heard whispers and distorted images. Mira's presence on the tape is a mystery. Who placed the camera? Who watched the footage? What she was searching for in the narrow corridor? Her eyes hold secrets, questions that the tape cannot answer. The mirror reflects not just her image, but the uncertainty of the moment, the sense that reality is slipping, twisting out of reach. The hallway is a threshold, a place where past and present blur, where every reflection hides another layer of truth. The fluorescent light buzzes one last time before fading to black. For a moment, the only sound is the persistent hiss of the VHS, a reminder of the technology that captured this ghostly scene. The tape resumes, but Mira is gone, her presence lingering only in the echoes of her footsteps, the afterimage of her eyes, the faint outline of her reflection. The hallway remains, silent and empty, waiting for the next visitor, the next story to be recorded and played back through layers of static and distortion. The mirror stands as a witness, its surface reflecting the emptiness, the possibility of something more. The hum fades, replaced by a silence that is almost comforting, a reprieve from the tension that filled the room. In the quiet, the tape rewinds, the lines rolling backward across the screen. The story resets, ready to play again, to reveal new details, new mysteries each time. Mira's shadow lingers in the grainy footage, her presence a reminder that some stories never truly end, that they exist in the spaces between frames, in the pauses between words. The footage is a relic, a memory preserved in analog, a snapshot of fear and curiosity, of searching and being found. It is an invitation to look closer, to listen for the whispers beneath the static, to see what the mirror hides. The hallway waits, the tape waits, and somewhere, Mira waits, caught between reflection and reality, between presence and absence. The frame freezes once more, locking the moment in place. The hiss of the VHS is the only sound, a lullaby for the ghosts that linger in old footage, for the secrets that refuse to be forgotten. The story is unfinished, the tape unspooling in the dark, searching for an ending it may never find. And in the glow of the screen, Mira's eyes shine, watching, waiting, remembering. Mira sits in the hush of the room, the shadows thickening as dusk falls outside the window. Her eyes, slow to blink, remain anchored to the dim, flickering image before her, a picture suspended between worlds, half lit by the waning light and the blue-gray glow of the aging television. The air carries the scent of dust and old upholstery, mingling with the faint coppery tang of nostalgia. She breathes in, her chest tight, and the quiet exhale through her nose is almost imperceptible, a gesture of restraint more than relief. The tape whirs softly inside the machine, a ceaseless companion to her silence. It clicks now and then, a gentle reminder of its age and the fragility of the memories it contains. Mira's gaze drifts to the pile of tapes beside her, each cassette a small monument to moments long gone, their labels inscribed in hurried, faded ink by hands now absent. She picks one up, feeling the rough paper against her fingertips. The edges are worn, the writing barely legible, but she knows the contents by heart. She hesitates, then sets the tape down, its weight returning to the stack with a muted thud. Her hand lingers in the air before she draws it back, her attention drawn once more to the screen. On the television, her grandmother appears in the midst of laughter, her words lost to the warble of old sound. The image stutters, but the joy is clear, a smile wide and unguarded, eyes crinkling at the corners as she gestures animatedly. Mira's lips part in response, caught in the strange tension between memory and reality, between the vividness of what was and the emptiness that now fills the room. She sits motionless, letting the scene unfold, unwilling to disturb the fragile connection. The hum of the television deepens, a bass note that settles into the floorboards as the tape reaches its final moments. Gradually, the image dissolves into black, and the room is plunged into darkness. The only light now is the pale, erratic glow of static, filling the space with a restless energy. Mira does not move to turn off the television. She remains seated, her eyes adjusting to the dimness, the memory of her grandmother's laughter lingering in the charged silence. She blinks once, slow and deliberate, as if sealing the moment within herself. Her hand lowers to her lap, fingers curling inward. The faint ticking of the clock on the mantelpiece grows clearer, rising above the hiss of static, a steady, insistent rhythm that marks the passage of time. The static shifts, its pattern changing in subtle ways. Mira's head tilts, her eyes narrowing in concentration. For a heartbeat, she thinks she sees something within the snowy blur. A figure, tall and indistinct, standing in the shifting gray. It is not her grandmother, the silhouette too elongated, too foreign. Her breath catches, pulse throbbing in her throat as she leans forward, eyes straining to make sense of the apparition. The room seems to contract around her, the air charged with anticipation and the faint tremor of fear. Out of the corner of her eye, the pile of tapes comes into focus again. One cassette sits slightly apart from the rest, its label smeared and unreadable, the ink blurred as if touched by water or time itself. Mira's hand hovers above it, hesitant, uncertain. The urge to reach for it wars with a reluctance she cannot name, a sense that whatever is contained within that tape is not meant to be disturbed, at least not tonight. Her fingers tremble in the air before she pulls them back, choosing instead to return her gaze to the television. The figure in the static is gone, vanished as suddenly as it appeared. The screen is now an expanse of dull gray fuzz, devoid of meaning, yet still compelling, as though it might at any moment resolve into something familiar. Mira stays where she is, eyes fixed, her body tense with expectation. She waits, unsure whether she is hoping for the tape to breathe with memory again, or dreading what else might emerge from the noise. A draft moves through the room, stirring the curtains and sending a shiver down her spine. The ticking of the clock grows louder, its steady beat now a metronome marking the intervals of her solitude. Mira does not move, her posture rigid, the only sign of life the faint rise and fall of her shoulders as she breathes. Her reflection flickers in the glass of the screen, a pale, distorted image half swallowed by static, her features warped and indistinct. It is as if she, too, is trapped within the tape, a ghost among ghosts. In the charged silence, Mira whispers something, her voice barely audible. The words are meant for the black screen, for the memories held within the whirring reels of tape, for the ghosts that linger in the spaces between sound and silence. Her breath fogs in the air, a brief, ephemeral presence. The static continues to fill the room, relentless and unchanging. She closes her eyes for a moment, letting the memories settle. The laughter of her grandmother echoes faintly in her mind, a warmth that lingers despite the chill in the air. The tapes beside her remain untouched, their secrets sealed for another time. MIRA sits in the darkness, listening to the pulse of the clock, the whisper of the static, and the quiet ache of longing that fills the room. Outside, the world moves on, indifferent to the rituals of memory. But inside, in the flickering half-light, MIRA remains suspended between past and present, her heart beating in time with the ticking clock, her soul attuned to the faint, elusive promise of connection. The night deepens, and the static fades to a softer murmur, almost like breath. For now, she is content to linger, eyes open, waiting for the next image to appear, the next memory to surface, the next whisper from the past to break the silence. In this small, quiet space, the boundaries between memory and reality blur. The tapes are more than objects. They are vessels for moments that refuse to be forgotten, for voices that persist even when the world has moved on. MIRA remains, listening, watching, hoping. The darkness is not empty, but full of stories waiting to be heard, laughter waiting to be remembered, love waiting to be reclaimed from the static. And so she stays, suspended in the hush, eyes fixed on the flickering screen, searching its depths for a sign. A familiar face, a gentle voice, a reminder that she is not alone in the silence. In the muted glow of late afternoon, the cavernous dance studio holds its breath. The wooden floors stretch endlessly, bearing the subtle scars of countless dancers who have glided, leapt, and spun across their surface. These scuffs are memories, etched into the grain, silent witnesses to the persistence of artistry and the repetition of practice. Against the far wall, a wide, unbroken mirror reflects the room's expanse, multiplying light and space and rendering every movement with unforgiving clarity. In the center stands MIRA, solitary and focused, her form framed by the fading daylight that filters through high windows. She is dressed for rehearsal, not performance. Her attire speaks of work yet unfinished. A simple leotard clings to her, paired with a soft skirt that sways with each motion. Her feet are bare, gripping the cool wood, grounding her to the studio's history. Despite her efforts to maintain order, a single rebellious strand of hair escapes her bun. It brushes gently against her cheek, a reminder of imperfection. Mid-step, she swipes it away, never missing a beat. But her breath betrays her, quickening, growing shallow with exertion. From an old speaker in the corner, music drifts in, soft, haunting, barely more than a whisper. It is the pulse that guides her, the thread holding her movements together. MIRA's motions are precise, each gesture calculated and controlled. Her arms carve elegant lines through the air, her feet glide with practiced certainty. Yet there is a mechanical quality to her dance, as if she is reciting rather than living the choreography. She spins, the skirt flaring, but another strand of hair tumbles forward. She shakes her head, trying to dislodge it without disrupting her rhythm. The smallest battle waged against distraction. Seated near the mirrors, the instructor observes in silence, eyes narrowed in concentration. He is a fixture in the studio, his presence both reassuring and daunting. MIRA's foot stretches into an arabesque, the line almost perfect, but her balance falters for a moment. The instructor's brow furrows as he makes a note, his gaze sharp and unyielding. MIRA feels the scrutiny, senses every flaw magnified by the mirror's reflection. Her breathing grows heavier, sweat gathers along her hairline, and the errant strand now clings stubbornly to her flushed cheek. She blinks, vision blurred by effort, willing herself to maintain composure. Her arm floats upward, fingers poised in textbook form, but her jaw is set, tension radiating through her. She completes a turn, eyes flicking to the mirror. Her reflection stares back, poised, yes, but there is a rigidity, a tightness around the mouth and brow. Composed but not free. The instructor rises from his chair, the sound of his footsteps echoing against the wooden floor, an interruption in the measured world of her dance. He approaches, stepping softly into her space. MIRA halts, breath stilled, as he stands before her. "Posture, Mira. You're fighting the movement," he says, voice low but firm. She straightens her spine, inhaling sharply, willing herself into the shape he expects. He circles her, slow and deliberate, eyes assessing every angle, every line. "Too controlled," he murmurs, and Mira's brow furrows in confusion. What does it mean to be too controlled? Isn't control the foundation of technique? The strand of hair falls again, persistent. Frustration flickers across Mira's face as she brushes it back, wanting only to focus on the work, but the instructor gestures toward the mirror. "You see? You're holding yourself back." Mira studies her reflection, searching for the flaw he sees. The image in the glass is faultless, every limb positioned, every gesture exact. Yet there is a stillness, an absence of breath, of life. The music swells, gaining strength, filling the studio with its plaintive melody. Mira lifts her arms into position, eyes locked on her own image. The instructor steps back, watching, waiting for something to change. In this moment, Mira stands at a crossroads, between discipline and release, between the safety of precision and the risk of vulnerability. She closes her eyes for a brief instant, letting the music wash over her, feeling its rhythm not as an external guide, but as something internal, alive. The studio, with its scars and echoes, is not just a place of practice. It is a sanctuary, a crucible where artistry is forged. Mira remembers the first time she danced here, years ago, when her movements were raw and unrefined, but filled with the wild joy of discovery. Now, technique has shaped her, refined her, but in the process, some of that wildness has been lost. The instructor's words linger. "You're holding yourself back." What would it mean to let go, to allow the music to move her, rather than simply moving to its beat? Mira's breath steadies. She lets her arms fall, releasing the tension in her shoulders. The strand of hair slips forward once more, but she ignores it, letting it become part of her, rather than an enemy to be vanquished. She begins again, this time allowing a softness to enter her movements. Her feet still glide across the floor, but now there is an undercurrent of fluidity, a sense of surrender. The arabesque emerges, not as a pose to be held, but as a line to be traced and released. Her fingers extend, not in rigid perfection, but in searching, reaching for something beyond the mirror. The instructor watches, silent, attentive. Mira's jaw relaxes, her brow smooths, and the dance begins to transform. The mirror reflects not just her form, but her spirit. There is tension, yes, but it is the tension of creation, not constraint. She spins and the skirt flares, hair flying, sweat shining, each imperfection a mark of authenticity. For a moment, Mira forgets that she is being watched, forgets the instructor, the notes, the expectations. The studio becomes a world unto itself, and she is simply a dancer, moving because she must, because the music demands it, because her body remembers what her mind tries to control. The light fades further, casting long shadows across the floor, and Mira's silhouette dances among them, both part of the room and apart from it. The instructor steps forward, but this time he does not interrupt. He lets her finish, lets the last note of music linger in the air. Mira stands still, breathing hard, sweat cooling on her skin, the rebellious strand of hair plastered to her cheek. In the mirror, she sees not a statue, but a living, breathing artist. She meets her own gaze, and for the first time, she sees possibility. The studio holds the quiet, the promise of what is yet to come. Mira is alone in the center, but she is not isolated. She is surrounded by memory, by music, by the presence of expectation, and the hope of transcendence. The dance is not perfect, but it is real, and in that reality lies the heart of her art. Steam curls upward from her tea, a thin, wavering phantom rising gently in the morning hush. Mira sits at the kitchen table, surrounded by quiet, the kind that fills the room before the world fully wakes. She glances at the mail scattered on the table, her interest waning before it even gathers. Bills, circulars, the usual parade of paper, each promising nothing more than the routine of another day. Her fingers, nimble but unhurried, move through the envelopes, sorting them into the familiar categories of necessity and neglect. One envelope halts her hand, a cream-colored rectangle, thick and heavy, standing out against the backdrop of the ordinary. There is no stamp, no return address, just her name, handwritten in ink that flows with an unmistakable deliberateness. She holds it a moment longer than the rest, feeling the weight of its presence, the difference in its texture. The paper is smooth, cool beneath her fingers, and she wonders, briefly, who might have chosen such stationery. Turning the envelope over, her eyes catch the seal, a deep red wax impression, precise and untouched. The spire of a temple rises from its surface, delicate yet commanding, hinting at tradition and something older than memory. MIRA runs her thumb along the seal, as if tracing the outline might unlock its mystery. She hesitates, sensing the significance in this small ritual before finally breaking the wax. The sound is faint, the tearing of wax against paper barely audible, yet somehow momentous. A private ceremony marking the passage from anticipation to discovery. Inside, a single crisp sheet unfolds in her hands. The letter is written in graceful script, elegant and assured, each word placed with care. She skims at first, her eyes catching the headline that changes everything. Invitation to perform solo at the Himalayan Temple Festival. Her brows lift, surprise flickering across her face. She reads on, lips moving silently, absorbing the meaning as it settles into her bones. One line stands out, bold and enigmatic. "Come only if you're ready to let go." She lingers on those words, her breath catching as if the note has momentarily stolen it away. The kitchen clock ticks on, the sound growing louder in the silence that follows, marking the seconds as her thoughts stretch outward. MIRA's gaze drifts toward the window, where early mist swirls between the rooftops, shrouding the world in a soft veil. The invitation feels like it exists outside of time, a fragment of some ancient story that has found its way into her morning. She lowers the letter to the table, her fingers tracing the edge of the page absently, as if memorizing its contours. The steam from her tea has thinned, the cup now just a vessel for cooling liquid and memory. She picks up the envelope again, searching for anything else it might hold. A secret, a sign, an explanation. A small pressed flower slips out, delicate and pale, landing softly on the table. She lifts it carefully, holding it to the light, marveling at the way the petals are almost translucent, a ghost of a blossom preserved in time. It is a whisper from another world, fragile yet persistent. Setting the flower gently back onto the letter, MIRA lets her fingers linger, feeling the connection between them, the invitation, the flower, herself. She reads the note again, slower this time, letting the words sink in. Ready to let go. They echo in her mind, reverberating with the memories she's tried to keep at bay. Her elbows rest on the table as she leans forward, the world narrowing to the space before her. She is alone, but the room feels charged, alive with possibility and uncertainty. The festival, the temple, the solo performance, each a doorway to something unknown. The letter does not promise comfort or certainty. Instead, it offers transformation, but only if she can release what holds her back. She reflects on all the things she has carried, the weight of expectation, the fear of failure, the longing for approval, the ache of past disappointments. Music has always been her refuge, her way of translating sorrow and joy into something beautiful. Yet there is always that moment before she plays, when doubt creeps in, whispering that she might not be enough. This invitation, with its gentle challenge, asks her to leave those burdens behind. She wonders who sent it, who knows her well enough to understand what she needs, yet distant enough to remain anonymous. The temple spire on the seal conjures images of high mountain air, ancient stones, and the hush that falls over a gathering of devoted listeners. The festival, she recalls, is legendary, an event where music is more than entertainment, where it becomes prayer, offering, release. The pressed flower, delicate as hope, speaks of journeys made and moments preserved. It is a symbol, perhaps, of the beauty that can be found in letting go, in trusting that what is fragile can endure. MIRA closes her eyes, imagining herself standing among the misty peaks, the first notes of her song rising in the dawn. She feels the fear and excitement intertwine, recognizing that the invitation is both a gift and a test. The ticking clock reminds her that time moves forward, indifferent to hesitation. Her tea stands forgotten, its warmth spent. The letter, the envelope, the flower, all remain before her, silent witnesses to the choice she must make. She knows the decision will not be easy. To let go is to risk everything, to step beyond the boundaries of comfort and habit. Yet as she sits there, the early light filtering through the mist, MIRA feels something shift within her. The invitation is not just to perform, but to transform, to surrender what no longer serves, to embrace what might come. The words, "ready to let go," repeat in her mind, a quiet mantra, urging her toward the unknown. She imagines the journey, the train winding through mountain passes, the temple rising against the sky, the air crisp and full of possibility. She sees herself walking through stone courtyards, her heart pounding with anticipation. The festival is a gathering of souls searching for meaning, for connection, for the courage to shed what weighs them down. MIRA knows that accepting the invitation means trusting herself, believing that her music can bridge the distance between longing and fulfillment. It means stepping onto the stage not as the person she once was, but as someone willing to change, to open herself to the mystery of what lies ahead. The pressed flower rests beside the letter, its pale petals luminous in the morning light. MIRA's fingers brush against it, feeling the promise it holds. She takes a deep breath, the air cool and clean, and lets it fill her. The choice is hers, and she feels the first stirrings of resolve. Outside, the mist begins to lift, revealing the day that waits. MIRA sits back in her chair, her thoughts swirling like the steam that once rose from her tea. The invitation remains, quiet but insistent, a call to let go and begin again. And as she gazes out the window, she knows that something has changed, perhaps everything. The journey, she realizes, has already begun. She stands at the threshold of two worlds, reality and something far stranger, hovering in the space between a decision made and its consequences unfolding. The room around her is quiet, save for the whisper of wind stirring the edge of the paper on the table. The invitation, its presence both alluring and ominous, rests in her gaze, the broken wax seal like a wound left behind. Her fingers hover above her cup of tea, the steam curling upward and dissipating in the stillness. The moment stretches, thick with anticipation, as if even the air waits for her to move, to speak, to choose. Yet, in this suspended instant, darkness seeps in and the world shifts. Sound falls away until only a faint, pulsating hum remains, barely audible but deeply felt, vibrating somewhere within her bones. She is barefoot now, standing in an endless field of black soil, each grain cool and strangely soft beneath her feet. Shadows press in from every direction, but there is no horizon, only the infinite stretch of darkness and earth. Her hair, usually so familiar, now moves with a will of its own. It sways gently, as if caught in a breeze, yet the air is dead and unmoving. A single lock slips forward over her shoulder, longer, glossier, and more substantial than she remembers. Curious and uneasy, she brings a hand up to it. The strands are warm, almost pulsing with a gentle life, sending a shiver up her arm. The ground beneath her gives a subtle ripple, like the surface of a pond disturbed by an unseen current. She watches, half in horror, half in awe, as her hair continues to grow. It lengthens in slow, fluid motion, tumbling past her waist in heavy waves, the ends brushing the dark soil. She takes a trembling step back, but it only accelerates. The hair pools at her feet, then begins to coil, a living mass gathering around her ankles. She bends, trying to gather it up, to free herself from its weight, but it has grown heavier, more substantial. The strands slide forward of their own accord, encircling her arms, cool and damp, like vines after rain. She pulls, but they resist, tightening their grip with each attempt to break free. The hum that filled the air deepens, shifting into a low, vibrating growl that seems to emanate from the ground itself. The sound wraps around her, pressing against her chest, urging her to move, to run, but her legs are already entangled. Her breath comes faster, sharp and shallow. The hair slides around her waist, winding in a slow, tightening loop. Panic begins to bloom in her chest, wild and uncontained, as she gasps and tugs at the living ropes. The pressure increases, squeezing the air from her lungs. More strands slither forward, thickening until they are as substantial as rope, circling her shoulders and pinning her arms to her sides. She feels the ground shift beneath her, the soil clinging to her knees as she sinks, unable to keep herself upright any longer. Desperation claws at her as she tries to scream, but the hair moves faster now, a curtain falling over her face, silencing her cries. It covers her mouth and nose, muffling her breath, pressing her further into the earth. She can taste the dampness of it, the strange organic tang, as she fights for air. Her world narrows to the sensation of pressure, the relentless tightening, the oppressive weight dragging her downward. Yet, even in the darkness, a sliver of awareness remains. A memory flickers at the edge of her mind, the invitation, the wax seal, the moment before she let herself drift into this other world. She remembers the feel of the paper beneath her fingertips, the decision that hung in the balance, unspoken but inevitable. Was this the consequence of her choice, or the warning she failed to heed? The ground grows colder, the soil pressing against her skin, gritty and unyielding. Her hair knots and twists, binding her limbs until she feels herself becoming part of the earth, roots sinking deeper, pulling her into the darkness. She struggles, the last reserves of strength burning hot within her, but the more she fights, the tighter the grip becomes. The hum is now a roar, a primal sound that drowns out all thought, all hope. Time stretches, distorts, loses meaning. She floats somewhere between sleep and waking, between surrender and defiance. The hair, once a symbol of identity and beauty, is now a shackle, an anchor to something ancient and unseen. She senses the presence of others, echoes of lost voices, muffled and distant, carried on the currents beneath the soil. Are they trapped here too, or are they part of whatever force holds her fast? In the suffocating darkness, she finds a single point of light, a memory of warmth, of sunlight streaming through a window, of laughter and gentle hands. She clings to it, refusing to let go, even as the world threatens to consume her. The invitation, with its promise and its danger, floats before her mind's eye, shimmering with possibility. Slowly, the pressure eases. The strands loosen, just enough for her to draw a ragged breath. The soil softens, yielding to her weight, cradling rather than imprisoning. The hum fades, replaced by the distant sound of wind, real wind, gentle and cool, carrying the scent of tea and parchment. She feels herself rising, the hair unwinding, releasing its hold. Light seeps in, faint at first, then growing stronger, illuminating the field of black soil, turning it to fertile earth. She opens her eyes, heart pounding. The room is still there, the tea, the invitation, the broken seal. Her hair lies neatly against her shoulders, no longer wild or alive. The decision still waits, patient and silent. She understands now that between every choice and its consequence lies a darkness to be crossed, a trial by shadow, a test of the will. And in the end, it is not the invitation that binds her, but the courage to face what lies beyond the seal. With steady hands, she lifts the invitation once more. The air is filled with possibility, and the future, though uncertain, feels just within reach.
Her breath hitches. MIRA.
A flicker of light, far ahead, pulses in the void. Distant, unreachable, a promise just out of grasp. Mira's knees sink deeper into the yielding soil. the sensation cold and damp, the earth clutching at her legs as if to claim her. Around her, unseen but intensely felt, coils tighten, thick and unyielding. They wind inexorably around her chest and throat. Each breath grows more labored, heavy with the scent of loam and fear. Suddenly, a sharp pulse of pain blooms in her chest, radiating outwards, jagged and electric. Her hands rise, desperate, clawing at the invisible strands, digging into her skin. But the more she struggles, the tighter they pull, constricting until her fingers slip uselessly against them. Panic surges. The pressure on her throat intensifies, squeezing until her vision narrows, her thoughts scatter. Her eyes widen, pupils dilating in terror, while her mouth opens in a cry that never leaves her lips, a silent plea swallowed by the darkness. The ever-present hum, a background vibration she hadn't noticed until it vanishes, drops into an abrupt, chilling silence. The world contracts. One final merciless constriction, and then everything goes black. In an instant, Mira's eyes snap open, dragging her from the suffocating grip of the dream into the pitch darkness of her bedroom. She bolts upright, lungs seizing in a desperate gasp for air. Cold sweat clings to her skin. Her hair is damp, plastered to her temples and the nape of her neck. She can feel the fabric of her nightshirt, sodden and cool from where sweat has seeped through, darkening the collar. Her breaths come rapid, ragged, each inhale sharp and shallow, as if her body still believes it's fighting for oxygen. Moonlight filters faintly through the curtains, casting pale ribbons across the floor and furniture, but the room itself is utterly still. The only movement, the only sound, is her own frantic breathing. She presses a trembling hand to her chest, fingers splayed over her heart, feeling the wild staccato of its beating, each thud a reminder that she is awake, alive. With her other hand, she brushes through her hair, fingertips searching, almost checking to see if the coils from her dream remain. She pulls a damp strand away from her face, the gesture both habitual and grounding. Her shoulders, which had hunched up toward her ears, sag in exhaustion. The adrenaline surge fades, leaving her hollow and wrung out. She swings her legs over the side of the bed, toes meeting the cool floorboards. The sensation is grounding, real, solid, a contrast to the intangible terror of her dream. Mira leans forward, elbows resting on her knees, her posture tentative, as if the weight of the nightmare still presses down on her. A single droplet of sweat traces its way from her brow, falling to the floor with a soft, almost inaudible sound. Her eyes remain unfocused, staring into the middle distance, searching for meaning in the shadows. The memory of the dream lingers in her muscles and bones, the echo of suffocation tightening her throat once more. She swallows hard, tasting the metallic tang of fear at the back of her mouth. It takes several minutes for her breathing to slow, for her heart to ease. Still, the sense of vulnerability lingers, delicate as spun glass. Much later, when the sun has risen and the memory of the nightmare is dulled, but not gone, Mira finds herself drawn out into the world. Afternoon sunlight pours through the glass front of a small neighborhood salon, golden and warm. Outside, the city moves at its usual pace, but inside, the space is an oasis of routine and comfort. The faint scent of shampoo and hair dye hangs in the air, mingling with the subtle aroma of coffee and the sharper tang of freshly swept floors. Mira steps inside, the bell above the door chiming softly. Her hair, still loose, tumbles around her shoulders, the ends brushing against her back. The salon is alive with the low hum of hair dryers, punctuated by the soft snip of scissors and the gentle murmur of conversation. Sunlight glances off mirrors, scattering reflections across the pale walls and tiled floor. Rows of bottles, shampoos, conditioners, oils line the shelves, each promising transformation, renewal. She pauses near the entrance, her gaze moving slowly across the room. Stylists in black aprons move with practiced ease, their hands deft and sure. Clients relax in chairs, heads tilted back in porcelain sinks, or sit upright while locks of hair fall in glossy piles to the floor. Mira's eyes scan the space, searching for something. Reassurance, perhaps, or simply the comfort of the ordinary. A stylist catches her eye and offers a gentle nod, wordlessly inviting her further in. Mira hesitates for a heartbeat, then steps forward, feeling the tension in her shoulders begin to ease. The salon is bright, filled with the chatter of voices and the steady rhythm of work. Here, there are no shadows, no coils tightening in the dark, only the familiar rituals of care and change. She moves to a waiting chair, smoothing her damp hair behind her ears. The weight of the dream lingers, but in this place, surrounded by light and the gentle sounds of scissors and laughter, it feels less oppressive. Mira draws a steadying breath, inhaling the clean, chemical-sweet air. She closes her eyes for a moment, letting the warmth of the sunlight settle on her skin. And when she opens them again, the world feels a little less menacing. As she sits, waiting her turn, she finds herself watching the transformation happening all around her. Hair is cut, colored, styled. Each client emerging subtly altered, a little more themselves, or perhaps a little more the person they wish to be. Mira's fingers tangle in her own hair, feeling its length, the texture, the slight dampness at the ends. The memory of the coils is still there, but now it is just that, a memory, not a presence. The stylist approaches, offering a smile and a question. Mira nods, giving her instructions, the words coming easier than she expected. She settles into the chair, feeling the cape draped around her shoulders, the gentle combing of her hair. The sensation is soothing, rhythmic, the opposite of the panic and struggle of her dream. With each snip of the scissors, each gentle tug of the comb, the remnants of fear are trimmed away, strand by strand. Mira lets herself relax, surrendering to the ordinary magic of the salon. The nightmare recedes, replaced by the simple pleasure of being cared for, of being seen. Outside, the afternoon sun continues its slow arc across the sky, and inside, Mira begins to feel whole again. Her breath steady, her heart calm, the coils of the night finally loosened. Mira sits quietly, her hands folded in her lap, feeling the gentle hum of anticipation that fills the salon. The soundscape is alive, a soft symphony of scissors snipping, dryers whirring, and muffled voices weaving in and out of each other. The lighting is gentle and warm, casting a golden glow across polished floors and mirrored walls. Mira's gaze drifts across the room, drawn to a woman with long, intricate braids. The stylist works methodically, trimming away thick sections, the hair falling in slow motion, like silent promises laid to rest. Each lock lands softly on the floor, a tangible measure of change, and Mira finds herself mesmerized by the transformation. Nearby, laughter rings out as another client grins, her fringe being shortened with practiced precision. The stylist chats easily, their hands moving gracefully, shaping the new look. Mira absent-mindedly touches the ends of her own hair, feeling the familiar texture, the comfort of what she knows. She doesn't even realize she's doing it, her fingers tracing the tips as if searching for certainty. There's a subtle energy in the room, an unspoken understanding that everyone has come seeking something. A refresh, a shedding, a moment of courage. A stylist leans in close to a client, speaking in hushed tones that Mira can't quite hear. The client nods, trusting as the stylist begins. Mira shifts in her seat, glancing toward the front desk, hoping for her name to be called. The receptionist catches her eye and offers a polite smile, but doesn't call her forward. Mira returns the smile, her heart beating a little faster, uncertain whether she's relieved or disappointed. She watches as a man stands up, his hair noticeably shorter, his face alight with a fresh grin. He thanks his stylist and heads for the door, the bell above it jingling softly as he steps into the world outside. Mira feels a ripple of envy. He carries his change so easily, his confidence tangible. The door swings shut, the bell fading, and the salon resumes its rhythm. Her gaze settles on a pair of clippers resting on a nearby counter. their metallic edges gleaming under the lights. Suddenly, the clippers are switched on for another client, their hum filling the air, a sound that seems to vibrate straight through Mira's chest. She inhales slowly, her chest tightening with each breath. The anticipation mingles with uncertainty, and she wonders if she's ready for what comes next. In the corner, an elderly woman sits patiently in a stylist's chair. The stylist runs clippers gently over her scalp, the hair falling in soft tufts, gathering in delicate piles on the cape and the floor. The woman's eyes are calm, almost serene, her face relaxed as she watches her reflection. Mira studies her, captivated by the quiet dignity in her posture. The transformation is gradual, each pass of the clippers revealing more of the woman's strength. Mira watches as the last strands fall away, leaving the woman's scalp smooth and bare. The stylist dusts loose hair from her shoulders, careful and respectful in their movements. The elderly woman gazes at herself in the mirror, her smile gentle yet radiant. There's a peace in her expression, a sense of acceptance, maybe even pride. Mira's eyes linger on the woman's smile, drawn to its depth and meaning. The woman turns her head slightly, noticing Mira's gaze. Their eyes meet for a brief moment, and in that exchange, something passes between them. A quiet understanding, a silent encouragement. The woman tilts her head, studying Mira with In the quiet hum of an afternoon, the air inside the salon carries a sense of transition. Hair, freshly shorn, drifts to the floor in small, soft clumps, each one marking a moment of change. The woman stands, shoulders squared, and gently adjusts the scarf around her neck, its fabric offering comfort and modesty. Her movements are careful, deliberate, a subtle affirmation of her new silhouette. She passes by Mira, her gaze steady but warm, and offers a small nod. It is not a gesture of farewell, but of solidarity, a quiet acknowledgement that something has shifted. Through the glass door, Mira watches her leave. The bell jingles softly, a fleeting note that lingers in the air as the door swings shut. The world outside seems brighter, and for a moment, the salon is caught in a hush. Mira turns back toward the front desk, her thoughts swirling. The receptionist is caught in a conversation, words tumbling into the phone, her attention elsewhere. Mira rises from her seat, feet planted tentatively on the tile, uncertainty flickering across her face. Her gaze finds the clippers laid out on the counter, freshly cleaned, their metallic edges gleaming under the overhead lights. A stylist wipes them down with a white towel in slow, methodical circles, their hands practiced and calm. Mira inhales, steadying herself, then lets the breath out in a measured stream. The choice before her feels heavy, and she stands suspended in the hush of indecision. Without a word, she turns toward the exit, the weight of the moment lingering as she steps through the door. The bell chimes once more, crisp and clear, and sunlight spills onto her face, warm and forgiving, as she leaves the salon behind. Evening comes quietly, stretching long shadows across the city. The mirrored studio stands empty, its polished floor reflecting the last rays of the day. Mira arrives as dusk settles, unlocking the door with a metallic click that echoes through the wide, silent space. She steps inside, the gentle creak of the wood beneath her feet a familiar greeting. The studio is a sanctuary, a place where every movement is a conversation with herself. A wall of mirrors lines one side of the room, reflecting Mira's small figure as she crosses the expanse. She drops her dance bag by the wall with a muted thud. Her sweater comes off, revealing a tank top damp at the neckline, a trace of the day's tension, the residue of lingering questions. Barefoot, she walks to the center of the room, her arms loose at her sides, her posture open but searching. A portable speaker sits quietly on the floor, waiting. Mira bends to connect her phone, fingers scrolling quickly through playlists. The music she selects is low and rhythmic, its beat a gentle pulse that begins to fill the space. She closes her eyes, letting the sound settle into her bones, breathing in the promise that movement can offer. The first gesture is slow, a stretch, a reach, a breath drawn deep and long. Mira's dance is not a performance, but a process. The studio is empty but for her, and the mirrors reflect each turn, each pause, each uncertain step. She moves with the music, weaving through notes and silence alike. Her arms sweep overhead, then drop, tracing invisible shapes in the air. Each repetition is an exploration, a question posed and answered with the body rather than words. The rhythm builds, and she finds herself moving with more certainty. Her feet slide along the floor, toes flexing, heels pressing into the wood. Her breath falls in time with the music, and the echoes of her footsteps blend with the low beat, creating a private symphony. In the mirrored wall, she catches glimpses of her own reflection, sometimes clear, sometimes fractured by the angle of the light. She remembers the salon, the hush of that moment, the clippers gleaming on the counter. The woman's nod, quiet and strong, returns to her now. Every movement in the studio feels like a response to that encounter, a way to process what was left unsaid, to claim her own space in the world. Mira's hands drift to her hair, fingers skimming the edges, as if testing the boundaries of self-image and transformation. As the music shifts, her dance becomes bolder. She moves in arcs, spinning through the empty space, her body cutting through the dusk. There is freedom in the solitude, and the studio offers a safe haven for vulnerability. The mirrored walls are both witness and echo, reflecting not just the form of her movements, but the emotion behind them. Mira's dance tells a story, one of hesitation and hope, of choosing to face the unknown. Every step is a negotiation between comfort and change. She leaps, landing softly, absorbing the impact through her legs. Her arms reach outward, then curl inward, as if gathering strength from the air. The beat rises, and she moves with it, caught between memory and anticipation. Hours seem to pass in moments, the world outside fading into darkness. The studio remains lit with golden lamplight, and Mira's silhouette moves against the mirrored wall, growing and shrinking with each turn. Her breath grows quicker, her face flushed with exertion and release. She loses herself in the rhythm, letting the music guide her through the labyrinth of her thoughts. Each dance phrase is a step closer to acceptance, a way to honor the choices made and those yet to come. Mira allows herself to explore the edges of her comfort, to test the boundaries set by fear and expectation. The studio is her canvas, and she paints with movement, layering memories and dreams into the choreography. When the music finally fades, Mira stands in the center of the room, surrounded by silence. Her chest rises and falls, sweat tracing patterns along her skin. She meets her own gaze in the mirror, searching for something, resilience perhaps, or understanding. There is no audience, no applause, only the quiet affirmation of having dared to move. She gathers her belongings, pulling her sweater back over tired shoulders, and moves toward the door. The studio feels lighter now, the shadows less imposing. Outside, the city hums with nighttime promise, and Mira steps into the evening air, carrying with her the quiet strength found in solitude and movement. The journey is ongoing, a cycle of hesitation, action, reflection. The echo of the salon lingers, but Mira walks on, her steps measured and sure. Change is not always dramatic. Sometimes it is found in small gestures, in the way sunlight touches a face, or in the beat of a song that brings courage. In the dance, she claims her story, one breath, one movement, one choice at a time. She settles into the seat, the city still clinging to her skin. Outside, the world slips by in a blur of gray and gold, the platform fading into memory. Mira exhales, the taste of salt and sweat lingering on her lips. She cradles the warmth of her cup, letting the steam rise against her face. The train hums beneath her, steady and gentle, as dawn stretches across the horizon, promising a new beginning. The city's edge vanishes behind Mira as the train glides past the final clusters of apartments, giving way to the quiet geometry of farmland. Fields in shades of green and gold, dotted with the occasional shed or scarecrow. The hum of the city dissolves, replaced by the rhythm of wheels and track, the countryside opening itself in gentle waves. Inside the carriage, the air grows softer, less hurried, as if the world outside has seeped in and slowed everything down. Across the aisle, a small group of women sit together, their voices low, their laughter light and almost musical. There is a sense of ease between them, a shared comfort. One wears a bright scarf, its colors vivid against the smooth, bald curve of her head. Another is entirely bald, her scalp shining softly in the filtered morning light, her eyes calm and unwavering, holding a kindness that seems to reach past words. A third woman's scarf has slipped, revealing short, dark stubble. She tucks it back with a casual gesture, smiling as she does. Their hands move with purpose. A paper packet of sweets appears, rustling open, and the warm, sweet scent of cardamom drifts through the compartment. MIRA watches them, her gaze lingering, curiosity mingling with something quieter, admiration maybe, or longing. She notices how their hands, strong and unadorned, pass the sweets between them, the simple choreography of friendship. The youngest of the group, her scarf tied tighter, laughs at something MIRA cannot hear, her face bright with mischief. MIRA feels the urge to smile, but her lips barely move. She turns her eyes to her lap, fingers twisting together, unsure whether to look or look away. Suddenly, a gentle nod interrupts her thoughts. One of the women, her eyes steady, her smile gentle, offers MIRA a sweet from the crumpled packet. MIRA hesitates, then accepts with a quiet thank you, her voice nearly lost beneath the train's clatter. The sweet melts on her tongue, warm and spiced. The taste lingering as she listens to the women's conversation, words washing over her like a melody she does not need to understand. Their laughter, their open expressions, the way they lean toward each other, all of it feels like an invitation to rest. Outside, the landscape shifts again. The fields give way to low hills, pine trees rising in loose clusters. The light changes, growing sharper, cleaner. One woman gazes out the window, humming softly, the tune barely audible over the steady rhythm of the train. Another leans back, eyes closed in rest, her face peaceful. The youngest catches MIRA watching and grins, teeth flashing, eyes bright. MIRA blushes, feeling the warmth rise in her cheeks, and turns her gaze to the window, watching as the mountains begin to gather on the horizon. Distant peaks catching the morning sun. The women exchange a glance that MIRA cannot interpret, a look that seems to hold a secret, something shared and unspoken. One tilts her head toward MIRA, a silent gesture of recognition. MIRA nods, more certain this time, her hesitation easing into quiet acceptance. The train slows, the countryside growing steeper, the track winding through the rising hills. A small station appears, its sign faded, its platform edged with frost. The doors open, and cold air slips into the carriage, curling around ankles and wrists. MIRA pulls her sweater tighter, hair brushing across her cheek, feeling the bite of winter. The women gather their scarves, wrapping them with practiced hands, their smiles undimmed. The bald woman meets MIRA's eyes one last time, her gaze steady, her nod gentle. A farewell, or perhaps an encouragement. MIRA returns the gesture, her chest tight with something she cannot name. The train doors open, and MIRA steps down onto the platform. The air is sharp and clean, carrying the faint scent of pine and snow. Her boots crunch on gravel, the sound small in the vastness of the mountains. She adjusts her bag, looking around. The station is little more than a wooden shelter, its edges softened by moss and age. Beyond the platform, a narrow path leads upward, winding between pine trees whose branches shimmer with frost. MIRA begins to walk, the cold air stinging her cheeks and turning her breath to cloud. The world feels different here, older, quieter, the noise of the city and the train left far behind. The path climbs steadily, becoming stone steps worn smooth by centuries of footsteps. Moss grows in the cracks, bright green against the gray stone, and the silence of the mountains settles around her like a cloak. Her pace slows as the altitude thins the air. Each step feels heavier, deliberate. She pauses, turning to look back. The valley stretches beneath her, a patchwork of fields and forests, dusted with snow. The peaks beyond glint in the sunlight, distant and serene. The sound of a bell drifts down from above, clear and cold, carrying a promise of sanctuary. The steps end at a terrace, where a monk in saffron robes stands waiting. His posture is calm, welcoming, his eyes reflecting the peace of the mountains. He says nothing, simply waits as MIRA climbs the last few steps, her heart beating in her chest like another bell. The air up here is colder, but it feels clean, unburdened. MIRA stands for a moment, catching her breath, feeling the quiet settle into her bones. The monk bows his head in greeting, and MIRA feels herself relax, the tension in her shoulders easing away. She looks back once more, seeing the train as a thin line in the distance, the carriage that carried her from city to hills. She remembers the women, bright scarves, steady eyes, laughter that lingered, and feels a thread of connection, something fragile and strong. The path ahead is uncertain, the steps winding higher still, but MIRA feels ready to continue. The mountain waits, silent and vast, welcoming her onward. Above, the bell sounds again, and MIRA steps forward, breathing in the cold, clear air, her heart lighter with each step. MIRA stands in the quiet warmth of the sunlit room, the hush enveloping her like a soft blanket. She gazes at the brass tray by the window, where the straight razor lies gleaming, its blade sharp and precise, inviting yet intimidating. The water in the ceramic bowl shimmers gently, reflecting the morning light that filters through the single window. The folded white cloth is immaculate, its edges crisp, as if prepared for this moment and no other. The scent of sandalwood, mingling with the incense smoke, creates an atmosphere both solemn and soothing. Her thoughts race, heart fluttering in her chest. Outside the door, the world is distant. Stone walls, chanting voices, the gentle swish of monks' robes all belong to another rhythm, another life. Within this room, time seems to slow, each breath a small meditation. MIRA's braid hangs heavy, its black ribbon a silent testament to the years she has carried it. She feels its weight, remembers every morning spent plaiting it. Every moment, it had shielded her from wind and sun, every memory woven into its strands. The novice nun, her face serene and kind, stands nearby, hands folded over her robe. The incense smoke rises in a delicate spiral, tracing patterns in the sunlight. The air is thick with anticipation, but also with gentle encouragement. MIRA meets the nun's gaze, searching for reassurance, for understanding. The nun's eyes are steady, filled with a quiet compassion that seems to say, "You are safe here. You may let go." Nisanski. MIRA's fingers tremble as she unties the ribbon from her braid, letting it fall into her palm. The act feels momentous, like the opening of a door. She sets the ribbon on the mat, its blackness stark against the straw. Unbraiding her hair, she feels each strand slip free, cascading over her shoulders. The sensation is unfamiliar, her hair heavier now, looser, as if it too is hesitant to leave behind the shape it has always known. She kneels on the mat, legs folded beneath her, the silence punctuated only by the whisper of her hair and the distant murmur of chanting. The nun approaches, her movements gentle and practiced. She wets the cloth in the bowl of warm water, wrings it out, and offers it to MIRA. MIRA presses the cloth to her scalp, feeling the warmth seep into her skin, soothing her nerves. The fragrance of sandalwood deepens, grounding her in the present moment. The nun picks up the razor, holding it with reverence. She offers it to MIRA, who hesitates, then accepts it, feeling the cool metal against he. In the hush of early evening, the monastery's chamber is steeped in quiet reverence. MIRA sits at the center of it all, her form silhouetted against the pale glow of dusk, leaking through wooden shutters. The air is thick with the scent of sandalwood drifting from a slowly burning incense stick, its smoke curling languidly toward the ceiling. There's a kind of somber intimacy to the space, a sense that the walls have witnessed countless moments like this, moments of decision, moments of hesitation, moments when one stands on the threshold of transformation and wonders if their heart is truly ready. The brass tray before MIRA gleams dully in the shifting light, its polished surface reflecting her face in a warped, uncertain manner. She gazes at it, noting how the reflection bends and stretches, how her features blur and blend with the shadows. And laid atop that tray is the razor, its edge catching the last rays of a fading sun, casting a sharp glint that dances across the room. It sits there, both simple and profound, a tool, a symbol, a bridge between who she is and who she might become. The nun stands quietly beside her, neither urging nor admonishing. Her presence is gentle but firm, an anchor in the tide of Mira's turmoil. When Mira admits, "I don't know if I can," the nun does not offer platitudes or encouragement. She simply inclines her head, her understanding flowing like water, soft, patient, and unyielding in its acceptance. Time seems to pause in that moment, stretching out between them like a thread waiting to be snapped. A faint gust rattles the window, stirring the incense smoke, making it swirl in chaotic patterns before settling again. Mira's hand reaches out, trembling just above the razor's cold metal, but she cannot bring herself to touch it. The memories of her hair, its weight, its history, the way it has defined her for so long, press against her mind. She pulls her hand back, the decision too heavy for now. "Maybe tomorrow," she whispers, and the words hang in the air like a fragile promise. The nun bows, her acceptance graceful and unhurried. She steps toward the door, pausing with her hand on the frame. Her voice is quiet, but carries the certainty of ancient wisdom. Transformation waits for readiness. Then she is gone, the door sliding closed behind her with a soft thud that leaves Mira truly alone. Mira sits, her knees drawn up, her chin resting atop them as she stares at the brass tray. The razor remains untouched, its presence almost accusatory, but also patient. The incense continues to burn, the ash bending delicately toward the bowl below. Outside, the wind picks up, rattling the shutters, reminding Mira of the world beyond this room, a world full of change, of endings and beginnings. She reaches up, untying the black ribbon that has kept her hair bound for so long. The knot loosens and her hair spills free, tumbling over her shoulders like a dark waterfall. For a moment, she lets herself feel the weight of it, the sensation of freedom and vulnerability mingling in the heavy strands. Her fingers absently braid and unbraid a small section, the repetitive motion soothing, grounding her in the present. The incense burns down, marking the slow passage of time. The silence in the room grows deeper, almost tangible, pressing in around her until all she can hear is her own uneven breath. The day's exhaustion settles over her, and she lies curled on the straw mat, eyes half closed, the world narrowing to the gentle rhythm of her breathing and the faint sound of wind through the shutters. As darkness folds over the room, Mira slips into a dream. In this dream, she is no longer alone, nor bound by hesitation. She sits before the temple mirror, a single heavy braid hanging down her back. Her fingers, steady now, grasp a pair of ornate scissors. The metal is colder than she expects, sending a shiver up her arm. She lifts the braid over her shoulder, cradling it with a mixture of reverence and dread. The strands glisten in a light that seems to emanate from nowhere, a light not from the lamp, but from some deeper source within the dream. Her pulse drums in her ears, each beat a countdown to the moment that will change everything. With deliberate slowness, she opens the blades, the whisper of metal echoing in the quiet. The braid tightens in her grip, as if reluctant to let go. Then, with a final surge of resolve, she closes the blades. There's a soft snap, a sound of release, and the weight leaves her hands. The severed braid falls to the floor, tumbling and slow. As the first rays of morning spill across the stone floor, Mira feels the hush of possibility. The world outside is still half dream, veiled in mist and pale gold. But a deep bell, the monastery's heart, calls her awake. Its sound rolls through the mountains like a wave, trembling in the marrow of the ancient stones. Mira rises, her feet bare against the cold, the quiet echoing in her bones. She wraps her arms around herself for warmth, then moves toward the door, drawn by the low, resonant hum that drifts in from the courtyard. The air outside is sharp and clean, tasting of pine and distant snow. Mira steps into it, feeling the chill bite through her thin robe, and pauses to take in the scene. In the courtyard, the monks have already gathered, their figures composed and serene, arranged in a wide circle. Their robes, saffron and maroon, worn soft by years of devotion, form a living mandala, a ring of color in the gray dawn. The chant rises, slow and steady, pulsing with a rhythm older than memory. Mira hesitates at the edge, uncertain, her presence a question among those who seem so sure. She settles quietly among them, folding her legs beneath her, hands resting on her knees. The stone is cold, but the chant is warm, filling the space between her ribs. She closes her eyes, letting the sound wash over her. At first, only the deep, unified voices of the monks, each note layered atop another until individual voices disappear into something vast and singular. The vibrations thrum through her, gentle and persistent, like the heartbeat of the earth itself. Gradually beneath the chant, softer threads of sound begin to emerge. Whispered voices, barely audible, flicker at the edge of her awareness, distinct from the monks, yet somehow woven into their song. The voices are women's, their tones shaded by age and memory. Mira listens, breath shallow, as they speak in half-remembered phrases. "I kept mine for 40 years, one voice murmurs, tinged with regret and pride. "It made me beautiful, but so tired," sighs another, her words heavy with longing. "It was my pride, and my cage," says a third, her voice strong and sorrowful. The voices overlap, a chorus of stories layered atop the monks' chanting, stories of holding on, of waiting, of bearing weight that grows heavier with time. Mira feels the ache in her chest, a resonance that is both foreign and familiar. A younger voice slips in, quick and wistful. "I never cut it. I regret it." Without thinking, Mira's hands reach for her braid, fingers curling around its length like a lifeline. She feels the smoothness, the weight she's carried, a thread of her own story, wound tight for years. It has been a mark of her identity, her comfort, her shield. Then, through the chorus, a single voice rises, clear and sure. "Be lighter!" The words cut through the confusion, simple and profound. Mira opens her eyes, the chant deepening around her, as if the voices are being drawn into its current, fears and hopes and memories dissolving, becoming part of the ancient rhythm. Her grip on her braid loosens. The image of the razor flashes in her mind, a moment both terrifying and liberating. She remembers how she has circled this choice for months, how the idea of cutting her hair has shimmered at the edge of possibility. The monk's chant seems to urge her onward, steady and patient, a reminder that every transformation has its own season. She sways gently with the tempo, letting her breath synchronize with the rise and fall of the voices. The sun, climbing higher, sends a warm beam across her lap, igniting the saffron and maroon robes around her into a burst of color. A cool wind stirs, threading through the courtyard, carrying the scent of mountain herbs and distant fires. Loose strands of Mira's hair flutter against her cheek, caught by the breeze. She feels their softness, the way they move freely, untethered. It's as if the wind itself is urging her to release what she has held for so long. In this moment, Mira senses the presence of those who have come before her, women who have chosen, who have hesitated, who have regretted and rejoiced. Their voices swirl around her, not demanding, but inviting. There is no judgment here, only the offering of possibility. She wonders what it means to be lighter, not just in the physical sense, but in the heart. To step forward without the shadow of yesterday's burdens, to let go of pride and fear, to trust the rhythm of change. The monk's chant is unwavering, a foundation she can lean on. Mira watches the sunlight play across her hands, the shifting gold painting her skin anew. She imagines herself after the cut, how the world might feel against her bare neck, how the wind might find her more easily, how she might walk without the weight trailing behind. The thought is both strange and exhilarating. The chanting grows richer, swelling as if the mountain itself is singing. Mira feels her breath deepen, her heartbeat slowing to match the steady pulse of the group. She is not alone. Every person here carries their own stories, their own burdens, their own moments of letting go. The voices in her mind grow softer, fading into a hum. The courtyard is filled with light and sound and the possibility of change. Mira sits quietly at the edge, her hands open in her lap, her braid resting lightly across her palm. She understands now that belonging is not about certainty. It is about showing up, about listening, about letting oneself be changed by the world, and sometimes about releasing what no longer serves. The chant, the voices, the morning light, All conspire to remind her that transformation is not a single act, but a series of small, brave choices. MIRA breathes in the mountain air, feeling the coolness and the warmth mingling. She lets the last of her fear drift away, carried by the chant, by the wind, by the wisdom of those who have walked this path before. Her fingers relax, her braid slips free, and she sits in stillness, open to whatever comes next. When she lets her imagination run free, she sees the burdens she's carried. Those tangled knots of expectation, the muttered doubts, the pressing weight of old anxieties, simply dissolving. In her mind's eye, they flutter and drift away, like petals scattered by a sudden breeze. The whispers that once seemed so insistent, so persistent, fade into nothingness, leaving only the constant, resonant hum of the monks chanting in the courtyard. The sound is deep, ancient, and comforting, a vibration that seems to reach through her skin and into her bones. For the first time in days, perhaps weeks, her shoulders feel subtly lighter. There's no dramatic release, no sudden flood of relief, but a gentle easing, as if the tension has decided to loosen its grip, even before she's taken any obvious action. She opens her eyes, and the world before her is transformed. The sharpness of detail, the rough stone of the courtyard underfoot, the delicate flutter of prayer flags above, the way sunlight glistens on dew, strikes her anew. The mountains beyond the monastery's walls are no longer dim silhouettes, but luminous, their snowy peaks catching the gold of morning. Rising with quiet deliberation, she excuses herself from the circle of chanting monks. The words of the chant, deep and rhythmic, continue behind her, a living river of sound that flows through the ancient stones and follows her with its gentle current as she walks the familiar path back to her room. Each step is certain, as though she's following a trail set down long before she arrived. Inside, the room is just as she left it, simple, uncluttered, sunlight slanting in through the small window. On the low table by the window sits the brass tray, its surface catching the light. She kneels before it, knees pressing into the woven mat, and sees the razor lying there, gleaming softly. The window frames a view of the mountains, their silent majesty a quiet witness to this private moment. Her hands rest on her knees. They are steady now, no trembling, no hesitation. The agitation that once filled her chest has quieted, replaced by a sense of calm expectancy. The words she's carried with her all this time, "Be lighter," echo in her mind. They are no longer a command or an aspiration, but a simple truth, as natural as breathing. The phrase is both invitation and benediction, permission to let go. She leans forward, fingers brushing the cool metal of the tray. The surface is smooth, grounding. This time, she doesn't hesitate or pull away. The decision has already been made, not just in this moment, but in all the small choices and realizations that led her here. It is as if the act has already happened, and she is simply following through on a promise made quietly to herself. With care, she lifts the razor and places it gently in her lap. There is no fear in her touch, only a sense of greeting, of acknowledgement. The razor is not a threat or a symbol of loss, but a tool, one she has chosen for its purpose, not its danger. She studies it, tracing the lines of light along its edge, feeling its weight, both literal and metaphorical. In this quiet, sunlit room, she sits with her decision. The outside world has receded, its noise and demands left behind in the courtyard. Here, there is only the hum of the chant, distant but steady, and the gentle presence of the mountains watching through the window. She breathes in, slowly, and feels the air fill her chest. Each breath is a reminder of her autonomy, her ability to choose what to keep and what to release. She remembers the first time she contemplated this ritual, the way her heart raced, the flood of doubts and questions. Would she regret it? Was it an escape or a confrontation? But now, all those questions seem irrelevant. What matters is the sense of lightness, the clarity that has settled over her like a veil lifted from her eyes. She is not trying to erase herself, but to pare away what is unnecessary, to reveal what is essential. With one hand, she smooths her robe across her knees, grounding herself further in the present. The razor rests in her palm, unthreatening. She considers the journey that brought her here, the weight of her own expectations, the voices of family and society telling her who she should be, the struggle to reconcile competing desires. All of it, she realizes, has been leading to this moment of self-determination. She closes her eyes and lets the morning sun warm her face. The chant is still audible, a constant thread that binds her to the community she has chosen. Yet in this instant, she is both part of something larger and entirely alone. She is free to decide, to act or not act, to hold or to release. The razor is simply a mirror, reflecting her intention back to her. The words return, "Be lighter." They are not an admonition, but a gentle encouragement, a whisper from within, urging her to trust herself. She pictures the burdens she's carried, the unnecessary worries and fears, falling away like so much dust. She understands, perhaps for the first time, that letting go is not about losing, but about making space, for clarity, for peace, for the quiet joy of being enough. She opens her eyes and looks once more at the mountains. Their solidity reassures her. They have stood for centuries, unchanged by the passing of countless lives and decisions. She draws strength from their stillness, their patience. The chant swells and recedes, a tide she can depend on. With a breath both deep and easy, she smiles. A small gesture, but genuine. Whatever she chooses next, it will be hers alone. The razor in her lap is neither beginning nor end, but simply a part of this unfolding morning, this new lightness she has claimed for herself. The chamber is quiet, save for the gentle sounds of water cooling in the basin and the hush of Mira's own breath. The ritual is familiar, yet each movement is imbued with new significance. Mira kneels, her posture straight but relaxed, and the world narrows to the warmth of the water and the softness of the mat beneath her knees. She dips her hands once more into the basin, feeling the heat seep into her skin, grounding her. The rising steam curls upward, carrying with it the scent of temple soap, an earthy blend of wild herbs and sandalwood, the fragrance of devotion and renewal. Mira lifts her hands to her hair, wetting it thoroughly. The water is soothing, and as she lets it run down her back, her hair grows heavy with moisture, clinging to her shoulders. She reaches for the soap, its surface rough with dried petals and ground roots. As she works it into a lather, massaging her scalp with slow, deliberate circles, she feels tension begin to ebb from her muscles. White foam gathers at her roots, then slides down the length of her hair, dripping into the basin below. The air is thick with the aroma of cleansing, and for a moment, Mira closes her eyes, savoring the last sensation of weight before change. A novice approaches, careful and silent, and pours a pitcher of warm water over Mira's head. The stream is gentle, washing away the suds in clean, shimmering rivulets. The soap is gone, and Mira's hair glistens, freed from residue, the strands smooth and sleek. She reaches for a wooden comb, its teeth wide and polished by years of use. Drawing the comb through her hair from root to tip, she is meticulous, each stroke slow, deliberate, and unhurried. The comb does not snag or pull. It glides, separating each strand, aligning them in perfect order. As she works, droplets patter softly onto the mat, tiny echoes in the quiet room. When her hair is fully combed, Mira lifts a folded piece of white linen from beside her. The cloth is simple, clean, and cool to the touch. She spreads it across her lap, gathers her hair, and begins to braid. A single, tight plait, centered and perfectly smooth. Her fingers move with practiced ease, weaving each section, drawing the strands together until the braid is firm and neat. She wraps it gently in the linen, the fabric absorbing the last traces of moisture, and the braid is hidden from view, cocooned in white. Rising to her feet, Mira moves toward the altar at the front of the room. The floor is cool beneath her, and each step is purposeful, measured. At the altar, a single candle burns, its flame steady and bright, casting a pool of golden light that flickers against the polished wood. Mira kneels once more, placing the wrapped braid before the candle. Her palms pressed together in a brief bow, the gesture one of reverence and offering. Her breathing grows shallow as anticipation coils tightly in her chest. The moment she has been preparing for is close. Turning back toward the brass tray, Mira's gaze settles on the straight razor. It rests atop a folded white cloth, the blade gleaming in the candlelight. She pauses, her hand hovering above the razor, feeling the cool air brush her fingers. The weight of the moment is palpable, yet MIRA is not afraid. Her fingers close around the handle, finding it smooth and warm, the grain of the wood polished by countless hands and many suns. She lifts the razor, feeling its balance, admiring the simplicity of its design. A tool with a singular purpose. She sits cross-legged, settling herself before a small mirror. The surface is clear, reflecting her face and the candle's flame, capturing the intensity of her gaze. The blade catches a narrow shard of light, and for a moment, MIRA studies her reflection. A face transformed by resolve, eyes steady and unblinking. Her hands tremble slightly, not with fear, but with the anticipation of change. She tucks loose strands behind her ear, smoothing them down, preparing herself for what comes next. MIRA's reflection meets her gaze without wavering. She draws in a slow breath, centering herself, anchoring her mind to the present. The world outside fades, leaving only the quiet sanctity of the chamber, the warmth of the wooden basin, the steady flame of the candle, and the cool precision of the razor in her hand. Each detail, water, soap, braid, linen, blade, has led her to this threshold. She raises the razor, angling it carefully, her movements deliberate and precise. The blade glides over her skin, the sensation sharp but not painful, a clean divide between past and present. With each careful stroke, locks of hair fall away, landing softly on the cloth. MIRA's hand is steady now, guided by ritual and intention. She watches in the mirror as her hair shortens, her scalp revealed, the transformation unfolding with quiet inevitability. There is a sense of surrender in the act, a release of old burdens and identities. MIRA feels the cool air against her newly bared skin, a sensation both startling and liberating. The candle's flame flickers, casting shifting shadows across her features, illuminating the contours of change. She works slowly, methodically, ensuring each section is even, each line clean. The razor is precise, and with each pass, she is further from what she was, closer to what she will become. When the last strand is shorn, MIRA sets the razor aside, her hands light and unburdened. She runs her fingers over her scalp, feeling the unfamiliar smoothness, the absence of weight. Her reflection is altered. A face framed not by hair but by intention, she bows her head, offering silent thanks for the strength to complete the ritual. Rising once more, she approaches the altar. The wrapped braid lies before the candle, a symbol of all she has released. MIRA bows deeply, her palms pressed together, her heart steady. The air is cool, the chamber silent, and MIRA feels a clarity, a peace, settling over her. The ritual is complete, the transformation accepted. She stands, straight and resolute, ready to step forward into the next chapter of her life, unburdened, unafraid, and renewed. The journey has changed her, and as she leaves the quiet chamber, she carries with her the memory of water, soap, flame, and blade, a testament to the power of letting go and the grace of new beginnings. She inhales deeply, filling her lungs with the heavy, fragrant air of the temple. The scent of sandalwood mixes with the distant smoky tang of burning incense, grounding her in a moment that feels suspended outside of time. As she holds the breath, her mind flickers with images, 1,000 memories, each one sharper than the blade in her hand. Childhood laughter, the warmth of her mother's arms, the weight of expectations, the noise and color of the world outside these stone walls, all of it hovers at the edge of consciousness, poised to be swept away. The razor rests silently against the first lock of hair, its cool metal pressing against her skin. A promise and a challenge. There is a hush, a pocket of stillness, as if the universe itself pauses to witness what comes next. Beyond these walls, life continues. Birds call from the eaves, the wind stirs the courtyard trees, and the faint sound of chanting rises and falls, a living current of devotion. But here, in this small stone chamber, the world narrows to a single point of decision. She exhales, slow and deliberate, letting the breath take with it the last of her hesitation. The blade shifts, pressing a fraction closer, and her grip on the handle tightens, knuckles white with purpose. Her heart beats steady and loud, a drum within her chest. The first silent slice begins, the razor parting hair with an almost reverent precision. Strands fall forward, sliding across her lap in slow motion, dark against the pale linen draped over her knees. A temple bell rings, its sound deep and resonant, filling the chamber with a sacred vibration. The note lingers, echoing in her bones, marking this instant as both ending and beginning. She closes her eyes, surrendering to the rhythm of the motion, letting the act become a meditation. The first swipe is clean, slow, and utterly irreversible. There is no going back. With each pass, hair slips away in a silent cascade, the weight of it falling from her head, from her shoulders, from her life. Cool air brushes against the newly exposed skin, startling and unfamiliar. She shivers, not from cold, but from the sudden intimacy of it, the world touching her in a way it never has before. Mira's shoulders drop, the tension draining from her body as if she is being unburdened, not just of hair, but of years of silent expectation and unseen sorrow. Her eyes flicker, quicksilver between grief and surrender, mourning what is lost even as she welcomes what is to come. The razor moves again, steady and sure, guided by hands that no longer tremble. More strands fall, collecting on the linen, a growing testament to her resolve. Each pass leaves a wider band of bare scalp, the pale skin beneath revealed, vulnerable and honest. She feels the subtle rasp of hair against the blade, a tactile reminder of the transformation underway. The scent of sandalwood persists, wrapping her in its warmth, anchoring her to the present. Outside, the chant continues, a calm and unbroken rhythm, ancient words rolling in waves, as eternal as the stone of the temple itself. A novice appears in the doorway, silent and respectful, sweeping the fallen hair into a neat pile. There is no judgment in his eyes, only acceptance, as if he sees and honors the courage in her act. Mira glances at the growing mound, the physical evidence of what she is leaving behind. For a moment, a faint smile tugs at the corner of her lips, bittersweet, defiant, and full of grace. Another section is cleared, the razor gliding over her scalp, revealing more of the smooth, untouched skin beneath. She runs her palm over the surface, startled by the sensation, soft and alien, like newness itself. Her breath hitches, caught between surprise and awe. Each movement of the blade is a letting go, a farewell to the old and a silent welcome to the unknown. She feels the last stubborn strands give way under the razor's edge, tiny shavings clinging to her temple, almost reluctant to depart. In this act, there is both sacrifice and liberation. She is offering up not just her hair, but her identity, her attachments, her fears. Each lock that falls is a prayer, a hope for clarity, for peace, for renewal. The chanting outside grows louder in her awareness, a reminder that she is not alone, that others have come before her, that she is part of a lineage of seekers and dreamers. Mira's hands, now free of the razor, hover over her newly bare scalp. She lingers in the sensation, learning the contours of herself anew. There is vulnerability here, but also a strange, fierce joy. She thinks of all the roles she has played, all the masks she has worn, and feels them slipping away, one by one. In their place is something raw and honest, a self stripped to its essence. The novice gathers the last of the fallen hair, his broom moving with quiet efficiency. Mira watches him, gratitude blooming in her chest for the simplicity of his kindness. She rises slowly, a little unsteady, feeling the air on her scalp, the weightlessness of her head. The bell rings again, softer this time. A benediction. She steps into the corridor, the world greeting her in its fullness. The chant enfolds her, the sandalwood lingers, and the cool air kisses her skin. There is grief, yes, for what has been lost, but there is also freedom, bright and unyielding, in the space she has made for herself. In the days to come, she will learn to move differently, to see herself differently. She will find that each morning brings a new lightness, a new courage. The world will meet her gaze and perhaps see her more truly for the first time. And in those quiet moments, when the chant fades and the bells are silent, she will remember this act, not as an ending, but as the most honest beginning of all. The candle on the altar flickers in a sudden breeze, its small flame dancing in the stillness of the room. Shadows ripple across ancient stone and white linen, and for a heartbeat, time itself seems to pause. MIRA stands at the threshold of a new beginning, her breath quiet, her posture composed. The air moves freely over her head, brushing against freshly bare skin, and she feels, for the first time in memory, completely exposed and yet unafraid. She lifts her hand, steady now, no longer trembling, and regards the razor she holds, its blade gleaming in the candlelight. The final stroke is precise, deliberate, a silent promise kept to herself. With care, she lowers the razor onto the waiting cloth, a small but profound act of closure. A moment of silence follows, as if the world itself is honoring the transformation. The room is filled with a deep, sacred hush. The novice who has been assisting her steps forward, offering a warm, damp towel. MIRA receives it gratefully, pressing it gently against her newly shorn scalp. The heat seeps into her skin, soothing away the sting, grounding her in the present. Fingers splayed, she holds it there, feeling the pulse of her own heartbeat, the rhythm of her own quiet courage. When she removes the towel, she turns to the mirror propped before her. Her reflection stares back, both familiar and unrecognizable. Her face seems sharper now, the lines of her jaw and cheekbones newly defined. Her eyes, no longer obscured by a curtain of hair, appear brighter, clearer somehow, as if a veil has been lifted. She tilts her head, fingers tracing the smooth curve of her skull, marveling at the sensation. The cool air, the unburdened freedom, the sense of possibility. The weight that once pulled at her neck is gone, replaced by a buoyant lightness. She exhales a long, unbroken breath, letting it fill the silent room. Beside her, the novice gathers the pile of hair, careful not to let any strands slip away. The hair is carried to a covered basket, and as it is lifted from the altar, MIRA watches without regret. She feels no longing, no sorrow, only a quiet satisfaction, a sense that something essential has been released. The basket is closed, the hair now part of the world's turning, and the linen cloth remains on the altar, empty and pure. MIRA stands, steady on her feet, and approaches the altar. She kneels before it, bowing her head in silent reflection. The room is bathed in the soft glow of candlelight, the scent of melted wax and warm linen filling the air. She is aware of her heartbeat, slow and strong, of the breath that moves in and out of her lungs, of the gentle hum of life around her. For a moment, she allows herself to simply be. No memories, no futures, only the immediacy of this sacred stillness. The monk who first welcomed her into the monastery enters quietly, his steps light against the stone floor. He bows once, a gesture of respect and recognition. MIRA returns the bow, gratitude and understanding passing between them without need for words. Their silence is full, a language all its own, a promise of acceptance, of shared purpose, of belonging. The candle burns lower on the altar, the pool of wax at its base growing with each passing second, marking the quiet passage of time. MIRA reaches up, touching her scalp one last time. The sensation is electric, raw, honest, unfiltered. It is a reminder that transformation is not always loud or dramatic. Sometimes it is as simple as the absence of what once was, as subtle as the way air moves across bare skin. She grounds herself in this new reality, feeling both vulnerable and invincible. The world beyond these walls awaits, but for now, she remains in this moment, savoring its clarity. Outside, the chant of the monks swells, rising and falling like the tide. Their voices are gentle but strong, weaving through the stone corridors and out into the open air. MIRA listens, and it feels as though the chant is an acknowledgement, a benediction, a welcoming. It is the sound of community, of tradition, of countless others who have walked this path before her. She draws strength from it, letting it fill the quiet spaces within her. With a final breath, MIRA rises. She steps away from the altar, her movements sure and measured. The linen cloth remains, a silent witness to her transformation. She walks to the doorway, pausing for just a moment to look back, to honor what has been left behind. Then she steps forward, crossing the threshold into sunlight. The mountain wind greets her, cool and invigorating against her newly bare skin. She closes her eyes, letting it wash over her, anointing her, baptizing her into this new phase of life. She feels the contours of her skull, the openness of her senses, the freshness of the world. The sunlight is bright, the air clear and sharp, and every breath she takes is a reminder of freedom. She moves through the courtyard, the chant echoing in her ears, the wind swirling around her. She is aware of every sensation, the roughness of stone beneath her feet, the warmth of the sun on her face, the chill of the breeze on her scalp. Everything feels heightened, immediate, real. She no longer carries the weight of expectation, of identity, of the past. She is, in this moment, entirely herself. Others pass by, some with heads bowed in prayer, others tending to daily tasks. They glance at her, some offering small smiles, others nodding in recognition. There is no judgment here, only quiet acceptance. MIRA walks among them, her presence both new and ancient, a continuation of a ritual that has unfolded in these mountains for generations. As she makes her way along the path, she feels a sense of belonging settle around her like a cloak. She is part of something larger now, a community, a tradition, a way of being. The journey that brought her here has ended, and yet another has just begun. She embraces the uncertainty, the openness, the possibility that lies ahead. With every step, she feels lighter, more certain, more alive. The future is unwritten, the past a memory, and in this present moment, MIRA is free. The wind, the sun, the chant, all of it weaves together, carrying her forward, grounding her in the truth of who she has chosen to become. She lifts her face to the sky, eyes bright, spirit unburdened. The candle burns low behind her, but within, a new flame has been kindled, steady, unwavering, and wholly her own. The razor pauses in midair, caught between action and uncertainty. MIRA stands in the quiet glow of the candlelit room, her breath shallow and her thoughts swirling. She catches her reflection in the old, slightly warped mirror, and for a moment, she is suspended in the space between past and future. On one side of her head, the skin gleams, freshly revealed, catching the warm, golden light and throwing it back as a gentle radiance. The other side remains unchanged, the heavy braid falling thick and dark over her shoulder, a familiar weight that has accompanied her through countless days. The line between the two halves of her head is sharp, almost startling in its clarity, a visible boundary between comfort and transformation, between memory and the unknown. She leans in, drawn by the urge to understand the person in the glass, her eyes darting between the bare skin and the plaited rope of hair. Carefully, she lifts her hand and traces the curve of her newly shorn scalp. The skin is warm beneath her fingers, still tingling from the earlier passes of the razor, and she feels the vulnerability of exposure mixing with the hope of possibility. Her hand moves downward, seeking the braid. It is heavy and reassuring, strands woven together in a pattern she could create by touch alone. The contrast is immediate and profound. The lightness of the bare side, the gravity of the braid, a physical manifestation of the balance she has wrestled with for years. Her breath catches, shallow and uncertain, and she closes her eyes, holding herself steady in that delicate moment. Flooding in come memories, unbidden and vivid. She remembers the careful hands of her mother combing her hair, the gentle fingers weaving intricate patterns for festivals and special occasions, the sound of laughter as friends admired the glossy length, the whispered compliments of elders who prized tradition and beauty. Alongside those memories come others, sharper, less welcome. The sting of criticism, the weight of expectations, the warnings of what it would mean to break from the path set before her. She lets the memories wash over her, holding them for a moment before exhaling, allowing them to pass. In the mirror, she sees herself not as fractured or unfinished, but as someone making a choice. The half-braided image is not hesitation, but intention, a declaration of agency that feels both terrifying and exhilarating. A faint breeze stirs the air, slipping through the window and lifting the loose strands at the end of her braid. The movement is slight but noticeable, a gentle nudge toward whatever comes next. The chant from outside, once distant, now grows subtly louder, a reminder that the world waits beyond the candle's glow. MIRA grips the braid with her left hand, feeling the texture of the woven strands, the accumulated history they represent. In her right hand, the razor sits, small and unassuming, yet heavy with the potential for change. She studies her reflection, searching for doubt, for regret, but finds only resolve. After a long, steady breath, she nods to herself, a gesture of quiet determination. She brings the razor to the base of the braid, pressing gently against the scalp where hair meets skin. With one clean, deliberate pull, she draws the blade downward. The sound is soft, almost tender, as thick strands slide away, unspooling years of memories in a single motion. The braid slips from her grip and falls forward into her lap, landing with a quiet finality. The sensation is immediate, a sudden lightness on the right side, a freedom of movement she has never felt before. MIRA tilts her head experimentally, marveling at the ease with which she can move, the absence of the old weight. The beginnings of a smile play at the corners of her lips, tentative but genuine. She returns to the task, shaving away the final remnants of hair, careful to create an even surface, an unbroken symmetry. When she is finished, she sweeps her palms over her scalp, feeling the smoothness, the cool air brushing against her now bare skin. The symmetry is not just physical. It is a sensation of balance deep within her, a harmony between what was and what now is. She studies her reflection one more time. The distinction between before and after has faded, replaced by a sense of wholeness. There is no longer a split, no more division. Only one self, present and complete. She sets the razor down on the white cloth, hands steady and sure, the candlelight catching on her bare head and illuminating her features with a new clarity. The air in the room feels different, cooler, cleaner, purer. It belongs to her now, filled with her choices, her intentions. Behind her, the novice moves quietly, collecting the fallen braid with gentle hands. MIRA does not look back, does not reach for what is gone. Instead, she brings both hands to her chest, pressing them over her heart, grounding herself in the present moment. A single tear escapes, tracing a slow, deliberate path down her cheek. It is not a tear of sorrow or regret, but of release, a letting go of old burdens, an embrace of the unknown. Outside, the final bell rings out across the night, its deep, resonant tone filling the air and marking the completion of a passage. In the silence that follows, MIRA stands tall, her head held high, the candlelight reflecting from her skin. She feels, for the first time in memory, entirely herself, unburdened, unafraid, and ready to step forward into whatever awaits. The room holds its breath, wrapped in the quiet aftermath, as the last strands of hair drift to the floor. Distant and gentle, a bell tolls in the monastery's halls, its resonance weaving through stone corridors to settle deep within MIRA's chest. She sits motionless, aware of the transformation that has just occurred, feeling the weight of ceremony and intention in the silence. The razor, which moments ago was an instrument of change, now lies idle atop a pristine white cloth, its purpose fulfilled, its edge dulled by ritual. MIRA leans forward, as if the surrender of her hair has lightened not just her body, but something unseen within her. Her fingertips, tentative at first, reach up and brush the newly exposed crown of her head. There is warmth there, an unfamiliar smoothness where she once felt the soft resistance of strands. She traces the arc of her skull, feeling the gentle curvature, the living heat of her own skin. A small gasp escapes her lips, half surprise, half wonder, as her hands glide across the surface. Each nerve alive, alert, sensing every contour. She presses her palms firmly, exploring the baldness, the vulnerability, the renewal. The sensation is electric, a pulse of intimacy running from her scalp to her fingertips, as though she is introducing herself to a part of her body she has never truly known. There is nothing to shield her now, no locks to hide behind, no familiar silhouette to blend into. Her breathing slows and deepens, settling into a steady, meditative rhythm, grounding her in the present moment. A candle flickers nearby, its flame dancing in the slight movement of air, casting shifting shadows across the stone walls. The room, once ordinary and familiar, now feels transformed, sanctified by quiet purpose. Mira's gaze drifts to a mirror set beside the ceremonial cloth. What she sees there startles her, a face both foreign and familiar, framed by absence. Without hair, her features become magnified. The curve of her cheekbones, the shape of her jaw, the depth of her eyes. Those eyes, now unshadowed, seem larger and brighter, catching the light and reflecting it back with quiet intensity. She tilts her head, studying herself from every angle. There is a vulnerability in what she sees, but also a strength, a kind of clarity that was hidden before. A faint smile rises, effortless and genuine, as if she is greeting a stranger who feels like home. She leans closer to the glass, examining the details. The smooth dome of her scalp, the way her eyebrows arch, the subtle lines of her skin. Her lips part as she whispers, "So this is me." The words soft but resolute, a declaration of self-acceptance. In that moment, Mira feels a shift, not just in her appearance, but in her sense of being. She is lighter, more present, more real. The layers she shed were more than physical. They were old stories, worn identities, lingering doubts. Now, in the quiet aftermath, she is raw and new, open to whatever comes next. A gentle movement at the doorway catches her attention. The monk who guided her through the ritual returns, his expression serene and approving. He bows with deliberate grace, honoring the transformation he has witnessed. Mira meets his gaze and bows in return, her movements unhurried, embracing the stillness that has settled around her. There is no need for words. Respect and gratitude flow silently between them. A novice enters, carrying a small wooden bowl filled with cool water. He approaches with reverence, as if bearing a sacred offering. Mira accepts the bowl, dipping her hands into the water, feeling its refreshing chill against her skin. She lifts her wet fingers to her scalp, letting droplets slide down her temples and neck, tracing rivulets across her bare skin. The sensation is cleansing, soothing, carrying away the remnants of the past and welcoming the new. She inhales deeply, catching a faint aroma of mountain herbs mingled with the water, a subtle reminder of the world beyond these walls, of nature's enduring presence. The novice drapes a light scarf over her shoulders, the fabric soft and white against her skin. It settles gently, a halo of comfort, neither concealing nor diminishing her transformation. As she sits, enveloped by the scarf, Mira feels an unexpected freedom. There is nothing to hide behind, no mask to wear. Her thoughts are clear, her heart unburdened. She is aware of every sensation, the coolness of the air, the warmth of the candlelight, the gentle pressure of the scarf where it touches her collarbone. The silence is no longer empty. It is filled with possibility. Her mind drifts to the journey that brought her here. She remembers the questions that haunted her, the longing for change, the hesitation before finally choosing this path. Each step, each ritual, led her closer to this moment of revelation. Now, as she sits in the quiet, she understands that transformation is not a single act, but a series of choices, a willingness to let go, to embrace what is uncertain, to discover what lies beneath the surface. She reflects on the significance of the ritual. In many traditions, the act of shaving one's head marks a turning point, a shedding of attachments, a rebirth into a life of clarity and purpose. For Mira, the experience is deeply personal, a physical manifestation of inner change. She feels gratitude for the guidance of the monk, the support of the novice, the sanctuary of the monastery. But most of all, she feels gratitude for her own courage, the willingness to face herself, to meet her reflection without flinching. As time passes, the bell's echo fades, replaced by the gentle hum of life outside the room. Mira remains still, savoring the quiet, the sense of renewal. She knows that challenges will come, that doubts may return, that the world beyond these walls is both beautiful and unpredictable. But for now, she allows herself to rest in the certainty of this moment, to honor the journey that brought her here, and to welcome the unknown with open arms. Her hands rest quietly on her lap, her shoulders relaxed beneath the scarf. She feels the pulse of her own heart, strong and steady, reminding her that she is alive, present, and transformed. The candle continues to burn, its flame unwavering, casting a warm glow that fills the room with hope. In the silence, MIRA discovers a peace she had long sought, a quiet affirmation of self, a gentle readiness for whatever comes next. A bird's call echoes from the nearby trees, a single clear note that lingers in the morning air, gentle yet persistent. The sound travels along the mountain's ridges, mingling with the quiet hush of the temple grounds. MIRA stands, her breath stilling as she listens. The robe, folded with care, is offered to her by the elder monk, a gesture both welcoming and ceremonial. She steps out from the shelter of the spring, droplets sliding down her skin like tiny glass beads. The last remnants of ritual cleansing. The stone beneath her bare feet is warmed by the long touch of sunlight, grounding her in the present moment. She accepts the robe, the simple white fabric cool and soft in her hands. Wrapping it around herself, she feels it cling slightly to her damp skin, every movement deliberate. She ties it at her waist, fingers moving with practiced precision, the knot coming together neat and firm. A small act of control, a quiet signal of readiness. A final gust of wind brushes over her scalp, newly exposed, a tingle of sensation that is both strange and exhilarating. She inhales deeply, the crisp mountain air filling her lungs, carrying the subtle scent of pine and distant incense. Behind her, the spring ripples, the surface disturbed only briefly by her presence, already forgetting the fallen hair that moments before drifted in its clear waters. The past is released, and the future beckons. She turns toward the temple steps, each stride barefoot and deliberate, feeling the warmth and texture of the stone. Her pace is unhurried but sure, a physical manifestation of inner calm. Each step feels rooted, grounded, intentional, a silent meditation in motion. Approaching the temple gate, she is greeted by a novice, young and earnest, who opens the door with a respectful bow. MIRA bows in return, a small gesture of gratitude and connection, her smile lingering softly on her lips. Inside, the chanting continues, a tapestry of voices weaving through the air, softer now, blending with the hush of the sanctuary. The sound is both backdrop and anchor, calming and steady. She moves to the altar, lighting a small butter lamp. The flame leaps up instantly, bright and unwavering, casting a gentle golden glow across the carved figures and offerings. She places her palms together, bowing her head, and offers a silent prayer, a moment of reflection, of hope, of acceptance. When she rises, her gaze is direct, unflinching, meeting the world with new clarity. In the courtyard, the ritual continues. MIRA approaches the small pyre, a bundle of her hair, once a symbol of self, now given over to transformation, cradled in her hands. She places the braid atop the stacked cedar branches, the dark strands a stark contrast against the pale, fragrant wood. A monk steps forward, his movements measured and reverent, lighting the base of the pyre with an oil-soaked torch. The flames catch quickly, orange tongues flickering and licking upward, hungry for change. The scent of burning cedar fills the air, rich and earthy, mingling with the faint sweetness of summer grass. The heat intensifies, and the strands of hair begin to curl and blacken, shrinking away from the fire's touch. The smoke rises in thin, twisting ribbons, carrying with it the old self, the old stories, the old burdens. There is no sadness in the letting go, only the quiet certainty of renewal. Around her, temple life continues. Monks and novices move about their tasks, sweeping courtyards, tending gardens, preparing offerings. Their faces are serene, marked by the same quiet discipline that guides MIRA's own movements. In the background, bells chime softly, marking the passage of time. Birds dart through the branches overhead, their calls bright and fleeting. MIRA watches the flames, feeling the weight of her choices settle evenly across her shoulders. There is no regret, only a sense of openness, an invitation to step forward, to embrace what comes next. The mountain wind stirs, carrying away the last wisps of smoke. She closes her eyes for a moment, feeling the warmth of the sun on her face, the solidity of the earth beneath her feet, the gentle flutter of her robe against her skin. In this moment, she is both student and seeker, held between tradition and transformation. The temple stands as witness, its ancient stones and wooden beams sheltering generations of stories. The rituals are old, but the meaning is always new, reborn with each person who enters, each prayer offered, each flame kindled. As the last strands of hair crumble into ash, MIRA turns away from the pyre, her path leading back toward the inner sanctum. The air is clear, the sky stretching wide above the mountain peaks. She walks with a sense of purpose, her steps light but firm, her heart steady. The chanting rises and falls, echoing through the halls, a reminder that she is part of something larger, a living tradition, a community of practice, a lineage of seekers. She pauses at the entrance to the meditation hall, allowing herself a moment to reflect. The transition is more than physical. It is a passage of mind and spirit. She feels the quiet strength of belonging, the gentle encouragement of those who have come before. With a final inhale, she steps inside, joining the circle of practitioners gathered on woven mats. The sounds of breathing and chanting envelop her, inviting her deeper into stillness. As she settles into her place, MIRA senses the subtle pulse of life in the temple. The interplay of silence and sound, movement and stillness, giving and receiving. The rituals, the prayers, the flames, all are woven into the fabric of daily life, each thread adding to the tapestry of meaning. She bows her head, palms together, and lets her thoughts drift away, carried on the rhythm of breath. Outside, the pyre burns low, the cedar branches collapsing into glowing embers. The mountain breeze scatters the ashes, nourishing the soil, feeding the roots of ancient trees. The bird's call echoes again, a reminder of the cycles of change and renewal. MIRA is ready, her heart open to whatever comes next, her spirit aligned with the quiet strength of the mountain, the temple, and the life she has chosen. In the tranquil embrace of the temple, surrounded by the echoes of chants and the scent of cedar, MIRA finds herself anew, grounded, present, and at peace. The journey continues, Geese, each step a testament to transformation, each breath a prayer, each moment an offering. Smoke rises in delicate ribbons, curling into the morning air as MIRA watches the burning braid. Her gaze is steady, unmoving, as the first tuft of hair turns to ash. A breeze scatters the fragments, shimmering in the sunlight, rising like moths into the open sky. Each wisp of smoke feels like a memory released, a childhood laugh, a quiet tear, carried away by the wind. When the pyre settles, MIRA kneels, grounding herself before rising, lighter, ready for transformation. Dressed in red temple robes, the fabric smooth and cool, MIRA steps into the courtyard, welcomed by silent nods. Drums begin, pulsing in the afternoon sun, and she joins the circle of dancers. With each movement, slow, deliberate, then quickening, her robe sweeps the stone, her bare head shining. Arms outstretched, she feels the air glide between her fingers, confidence growing. The music swells, robes whirl, and MIRA leaps, radiant, her transformation complete as awe rises among the crowd. The city hums around her, alive with 1,000 private dramas unfolding in parallel. Each footstep rings out on the pavement, firm, deliberate, the cadence of someone who has learned not to hesitate. The air is thick with the mingled sense of coffee brewing in corner cafes, exhaust from passing traffic, and the subtle promise of rain on distant wind. MIRA moves through it all with a kind of grace born from necessity, her gaze neither lowered nor combative, but steady, meeting the world on its own terms. A fragment of conversation floats past her, half swallowed by the city's constant murmur. Someone mutters something, a phrase meant for only a select few to hear, and she catches only the tail end, indistinct and unimportant. She doesn't slow, doesn't pause to decipher the meaning or measure its intent. Instead, her sandals click out a rhythm that is all her own, a declaration of presence that neither invites nor deflects attention. At the edge of a sidewalk cafe, a young girl waits with her mother, her dark braids swinging as she turns her head to stare at MIRA. There is wonder in the child's eyes, wide and unguarded, the kind that sees possibility, where adults see only difference. MIRA meets her gaze, pausing just long enough to wink, a fleeting moment of connection. The girl blushes, a smile blooming shyly on her lips before she turns away. The spell broken, but not forgotten. A gust of wind sweeps down the street, playful and cool, carrying with it the first hint of autumn. It brushes over Mira's scalp, sending a shiver down her spine. A sensation both strange and thrilling. She is still becoming accustomed to this new vulnerability, this exposed honesty. There's something electric in the feeling, as if the wind itself recognizes her transformation and greets her with approval. Passing a shop window, Mira catches her reflection. It is always a surprise, stripped down, powerful, direct. She sees herself as others might. Chin lifted, eyes clear, expression composed but not closed. Gone are the layers she once wore as armor. What remains is unfiltered, unapologetic. The image startles her, even now, but she finds comfort in its truth. Nearby, two women have paused their conversation, their eyes tracing Mira's silhouette as she moves past. Their expressions are inscrutable, a blend of curiosity and perhaps something harder to name. Mira wonders briefly what they might be thinking, questions, judgments, silent speculations. But she does not linger in their imagined narratives. She lets the thoughts rise and fall, like waves against a breakwater, and moves on. At the next street crossing, a man waits with his hat in hand. As she approaches, he tips it in greeting, a gesture both old-fashioned and sincere. Mira acknowledges him with a nod, her face calm, neither inviting nor dismissing further interaction. The light changes, signaling her forward, and she steps off the curb, her stride unwavering. A city bus rumbles past, its windows reflecting a kaleidoscope of urban life. For a moment, Mira glimpses her own image multiplied, fractured by the movement, her figure duplicated and swept along in the current. It is a reminder that identity is never singular, always shifting with context and perspective. Behind her, voices blend into the ambient noise, whispers and comments half heard, half imagined. None of them reach her fully. They dissolve into the background, indistinct and ephemeral. Mira has learned to let them pass, not to gather them up and hold them close. Their weight is not hers to carry. Her path takes her into the heart of an open-air market, where the air vibrates with the calls of vendors hawking their wares. The cacophony is both overwhelming and strangely comforting, a testament to the city's indefatigable spirit. Mira moves through it like a ghost, unnoticed by most, her presence neither invited nor resisted. She is both part of this world and apart from it, threading through the crowd with practiced ease. A florist stands at the edge of his stall, surrounded by blooms of every color. He holds out a single chrysanthemum, wordlessly offering it to her. Mira accepts, cradling the flower in her hand, its petals delicate and resilient. It is a small gesture, but it anchors her in the moment, a reminder of beauty amid the bustle. Turning down her street, Mira feels the sounds of the market fade behind her, replaced by the quieter rhythm of residential life. The stares and whispers linger only as memory now, fading echoes in the corners of her mind. She knows they will surface again, in moments of stillness. But their power is diminished, transformed by distance and reflection. Ahead, her door stands waiting, sunlight pooling at its base, promising sanctuary. Mira pauses, exhaling deeply, the tension of the day slipping from her shoulders. She reaches for the handle, fingers steady, heart measured. Inside, a quieter kind of reckoning awaits, a space where the masks can fall away, where she can confront herself without the gaze of strangers. It is here, in the hush of her own home, that Mira allows herself to feel the full weight of her journey. The city outside is relentless, demanding adaptation, resilience, a constant negotiation of boundaries. But within these walls, she is free to be unguarded, to examine the contours of her new self, to mourn what has been lost and celebrate what has been gained. She places the chrysanthemum in a glass of water, watching as it settles, its stem arching gracefully. The flower will last only a few days, but its presence is a reminder of kindness, of fleeting beauty found in unexpected places. Mira sits, letting the quiet envelop her, the sounds of the street receding until they are nothing but memory. She reflects on the encounters of the day, the curious child, the silent women, the courteous stranger, the anonymous voices. Each one is a thread in the tapestry of her experience, shaping her understanding of herself and the world she moves through. There is courage in each step, in each act of meeting the gaze of another and refusing to shrink from it. As dusk settles, MIRA knows that tomorrow will bring new challenges, new moments of vulnerability and strength. But for now, she allows herself to rest, to inhabit this solitude fully, to honor the journey that has brought her here. The city outside may be indifferent, but within these walls, she claims her peace. And so the day ends, not with resolution, but with acceptance. MIRA is changed, and changing still. She carries herself forward, step by step, into whatever comes next. MIRA sits on her bed, cross-legged, with her phone gripped loosely in her hand. Notifications flash across the screen, relentless in their urgency, each one demanding attention, each one a reflection of the world's gaze suddenly fixed upon her. She scrolls through the rapid stream of alerts, her bare scalp gleaming in the soft morning light, her face, vulnerable, unadorned, appearing on dozens of tagged posts throughout the labyrinth of social platforms. For a moment, she pauses and lets her eyes trace the contours of each notification. Her image is everywhere, on fan pages, news articles, and the timelines of strangers. Some posts celebrate her, voices rising in support, calling her inspiring, calling her bold. Others are cruel, their words sharp and unyielding, questioning her choices, mocking her appearance. Headlines scream in bold text, flooding her screen with interpretations and judgments. Star dancer shocks fans. She sees herself mid-spin at the festival, red robe swirling, arms extended, the movement captured in perfect clarity. Another photo, grainy and invasive, shows her crossing a city street, unaware of the camera trained on her from afar. She scrolls past these images, her thumb steady, but her heart unsteady, pausing at a comment that calls her brave, then hesitating at another that calls her ruined. The words linger, heavy in the silence of her room. Her thumb hovers over the reply button, uncertain, caught between the urge to defend herself and the exhaustion of being exposed. She closes her eyes, willing the noise to subside, and sets the phone down gently on the bedspread. The screen dims, but the echoes of public opinion remain. Across the room, the red festival robe hangs neatly on a chair, a silent witness to her recent defiance. Sunlight spills through the window, warm and bright, catching on the curves of her scalp and illuminating the space with quiet affirmation. She breathes deeply. The air in her room is still, punctuated only by the distant hum of street sounds filtering through the window. MIRA picks up her phone again, this time with intention. She opens her profile, her finger moving with purpose. She lifts the camera, framing her face in a close-up, the lens capturing every line, every shadow, every truth. No filters, no makeup, no attempt to soften or disguise. She looks straight into the camera, her gaze steady, her expression calm. The caption she writes is simple, stripped of embellishment. "This is me." 3 words, direct and unguarded. She presses post without hesitation, feeling a quiet resolve settle within her. Instantly, the likes begin to register, a wave she doesn't chase or count. She watches them come, not as a measure of worth, but as a reflection of connection. Messages trickle in, some from old friends she hasn't spoken to in years. One reads, "Proud of you," the sentiment clear and uncomplicated. Another message appears from her dance instructor, the person who taught her to move with intention and grace. "Now you're dancing." The words linger, filling her with a sense of affirmation that goes deeper than applause or accolades. She sees a share from a women's rights group, their endorsement landing unexpectedly. Another follower writes, "I shaved mine today because of you." The comment carrying a weight of solidarity, a testament to the quiet ripple of influence she set in motion. MIRA smiles softly, touched by the sincerity, the courage, and the vulnerability of those reaching out. Cruel comments still come, their sting familiar but less potent now. She scrolls past them, refusing to let them take root, choosing instead to focus on the voices that lift rather than tear down. She notices her follower count climbing steadily, each new notification a small act of recognition, a quiet joining of her journey. A message from a news outlet requests an interview, the prospect of further exposure looming. She declines with a polite, "Not now," knowing she owes nothing more than her own truth in this moment. She locks her phone and sets it face down, a deliberate act of self-care, reclaiming her space and her silence. Her room is quiet except for the distant sounds of the city beyond her window. She sits in the sunlight, feeling its warmth on her scalp, embracing the stillness. The festival robe remains on the chair, a symbol of transformation, of courage, of the choice to shed expectations and step into her own story. Mira reflects on the journey that led here, remembering the first time she considered shaving her head, the swirl of doubts and fears that accompanied the thought. She recalls the pressure to conform, to keep her hair long and flowing, to fit the image of the elegant dancer adored by audiences and photographers. But she also remembers the exhaustion of maintaining that facade, the growing discomfort of living inside someone else's vision. The decision came quietly, in the early hours of morning, as she stood in front of the mirror and imagined what it would feel like to let go. The razor buzzed, the hair fell, and each strand marked a step away from expectations and a step toward herself. The transformation was not just physical, but emotional, spiritual, a shedding of layers that no longer served her. At the festival, as she spun in her red robe, she felt the air on her scalp, the freedom in her movement. The crowd watched, some startled, some admiring, some uncertain. She danced not for approval, but for the joy of inhabiting her own skin. Now, in the aftermath, she faces the world's response. She carries the weight of its opinions, but she also carries the strength of her own conviction. The cruel words hurt, but they do not define her. The kind words heal, but she knows that her worth cannot be measured by anyone else's praise or criticism. Her phone lights up again, but she lets it rest. She listens instead to the rhythm of her breath, the distant sounds of traffic, the flutter of her heart. She is reminded that courage is quiet, that transformation is slow, that authenticity is a journey rather than a destination. Mira stands and walks to the window, sunlight washing over her. She looks out at the city, at the people moving through their own days, caught in their own stories. She feels a sense of connection, a thread of shared experience running through the fabric of her life and theirs. She knows that vulnerability is not weakness, but strength, the power to stand in the light and say, "This is me." As the day unfolds, Mira embraces the uncertainty, the possibility, the quiet hope that comes with choosing herself. She returns to her bed, sits cross-legged, and lets the sunlight warm her scalp. In this moment, she is whole. She is present. She is enough. The studio is still, save for the quiet whir of the ceiling fan tracing slow circles above. The energy in the room is taut, a hush of anticipation lingering between polished floorboards and mirrored walls. Mira stands at the center, poised and grounded, her presence calm but commanding. Before her, a semicircle of young dancers waits, each figure marked by the uniformity of tradition. Hair pulled back in severe, flawless buns, not a strand out of place. Their faces mirror a blend of reverence, anxiety, and hope, as if the weight of all the dancers who came before them presses gently on their shoulders. Mira surveys the group, her gaze softening as she takes in their nervous postures. With a gesture toward their heads, she breaks the silence. "Loosen them," she says, her voice both gentle and firm. At first, the words hang in the air, strange and unwelcome. The girls exchange hesitant glances, uncertainty flickering in their eyes. To let their hair down is to stray from the rules, to risk vulnerability. But Mira's smile is reassuring, her confidence contagious. "Trust me," she urges, and the spell of tension begins to break. A reluctant hand reaches up, trembling slightly, and the first bun unravels. A cascade of hair tumbles down, framing a young face flushed with embarrassment. Laughter bubbles up, awkward at first, but genuine. Another girl protests, a frown creasing her brow. "It's distracting," she says, fingers smoothing stray locks away from her eyes. Mira's reply is gentle but unyielding. "So is thinking you have to be perfect." She moves to the center of the room, her shaved head catching the light, a beacon of defiance against conformity. She demonstrates a spin, her movements fluid and effortless, as if the absence of hair is a liberation rather than a loss. "Balance comes from your center, not your hair," she says, and a ripple of laughter follows, the tension in the room easing as the girls begin to understand. She guides them into a series of free-form movements, her instructions simple and open-ended. At first, they are tentative, their limbs stiff with uncertainty, self-consciousness pinning them to the ground. MIRA encourages them, her words soft but insistent. "Forget the audience," she says. There is no audience here. The room seems to breathe with possibility, the boundaries of tradition loosening just enough for something new to emerge. As they move, MIRA shares her own story, her voice weaving through the rhythm of bare feet on wood. She tells them about her years spent bowing to tradition, the pressure to conform, the fear of standing out. She tells them how hair for so long was a symbol of discipline and identity, but also of restrictions she never chose. "Hair grows back," she says, her tone wistful but resolute. "Time doesn't." A girl, no older than 16, looks up at her with wide, searching eyes. "But everyone says it's part of who we are." The words are heavy, loaded with the voices of teachers, mothers, and generations past. MIRA nods, acknowledging the truth in the statement, but offering a new perspective. "It can be, if you choose it." Her voice is patient, inviting them to consider their own agency. Another dancer, voice trembling, asks, "What if we don't?" MIRA smiles, warmth radiating from her. "Then you'll find out who you are without it." The studio shifts, the atmosphere growing lighter as hair slips free from pins and bands. Strands catch the air, swirling as the dancers move with growing confidence. In the corner, a small pile of discarded hairpins gleams, a quiet rebellion, a collection of tiny metal symbols left behind in favor of something more authentic. MIRA claps her hands, marking the rhythm, guiding their steps, but never dictating them. The dancers begin to lose themselves in the motion, their breath coming in quick, exhilarated bursts. She stops them mid-sequence, her voice gentle but commanding. "Now close your eyes." The room fills with the sound of movement, bare feet sliding and stomping, bodies twisting, laughter rising unguarded for the first time. Free from mirrors and scrutiny, they begin to dance for themselves, not for approval or applause. MIRA moves among them, her touch light as she adjusts a shoulder here, softens a knee there. She whispers encouragement, her words carrying the power of experience and empathy. "You are not ornaments," she says, voice low but resonant. "You are storms." The dancers absorb the message, their movements growing wilder, more personal, as if something within them is breaking free. From a small speaker in the corner, music swells, filling the space with energy and possibility. The choreography dissolves into improvisation, each dancer exploring her own rhythm, her own story. MIRA joins in, not as a leader or instructor, but as an equal, a fellow traveler on the road to self-discovery. They move together, a whirlwind of hair and limbs and laughter, until exhaustion overtakes them and they collapse onto the floor, breathless and grinning. For a moment, the world is reduced to the warmth of bodies pressed against cool wood, the sound of laughter echoing off the walls, the simple joy of being together, unburdened, unbound. One girl, cheeks flushed and eyes bright, tucks a loose curl behind her ear, a shy smile blooming on her lips. "I think I get it," she says, her voice soft but sure. MIRA grins, pride shining in her eyes. "Good. Now go break something. Gently." The words are half joke, half invitation, a challenge to carry the spirit of this moment beyond the studio. To question, to rebel, to create. The dancers file out, their steps light, their laughter trailing behind them like a promise. Outside, the late afternoon sun slants through the windows, turning the studio to gold. MIRA stands alone for a moment, gazing at the empty space, the echoes of movement and laughter still lingering in the air. She feels a quiet pride, a sense that something important has begun, not just for her students, but for herself as well. In the golden hush of the studio, Mira knows they will return, not just as dancers, but as storms, ready to claim the stage on their own terms. As the day draws to a gentle close, the evening light filters softly through thin curtains, painting the room in hues of amber and gold. The world outside seems to slow, settling into quiet as shadows stretch across the walls and the air grows still. Mira sits cross-legged on the couch, a warm cup of tea cradled between her hands. The ceramic is smooth, radiating gentle heat, grounding her in the moment. She watches the steam curl upward, disappearing into the hush of twilight, her thoughts drifting quietly, unhurried. The door opens with the faintest sound, a subtle shift in the background. Someone enters, moving with practiced care, as if mindful not to disturb the delicate peace that has settled in the room. They close the door behind them, the click barely audible, and set their bag down on a chair with a touch so light it leaves no trace. The space fills with their presence, a familiar energy, calm and steady, threading through Mira's awareness. Mira glances up, her gaze softening as she meets their eyes. In the quiet that follows, there is recognition, a silent conversation carried on the lines of their faces and the gentle curve of a smile. She asks, her voice a low hum in the tranquil air. "Long day?" The words hover, gentle, concerned, an invitation to share. Their reply is simple, but carries weight. "Better now." They take a few steps toward her, crossing the small distance with a sense of purpose that feels both careful and inevitable. As they settle beside her on the couch, their knees touch, grounding them together in the shared space. Mira sets her tea aside, the ritual complete, her attention wholly present. A comfortable silence settles between them, woven from years of understanding and the subtle promise of companionship. In the quiet, there is no pressure, only the soft rhythm of breathing, the faint ticking of a distant clock, the gentle flutter of curtains as a breeze stirs. Time seems to stretch, generous and forgiving, wrapping the pair in a cocoon of warmth. Their hand lifts, fingers hesitating just above Mira's head. A question asked without words. Mira tilts her head slightly, her expression open, giving permission with a nod so slight it could be missed by anyone but the one who knows her best. The fingers descend, meeting smooth scalp, and begin to trace gentle patterns. Circles, lines, the memory of comfort etched in touch. Mira closes her eyes, surrendering to the sensation. Each stroke is deliberate, tender, imbued with care and the unspoken promise of acceptance. The tension she carried through the day melts away, replaced by a deep sense of belonging. In this moment, there is nothing she must hide, no mask she must wear. She is seen, wholly and without reservation. Their voice is a whisper, soft and certain, brushing the edge of vulnerability. "I see all of you now." The words linger, suspended in the quiet, echoing in the hollow where uncertainty once lived. Mira's breath catches in her chest, the truth of it settling deep. There is no judgment here, only warmth, an invitation to rest, to be held, to be known. She opens her eyes slowly, searching theirs. What she finds there is a gentle assurance, a kind of love that asks nothing more than honesty. The world outside the room fades to insignificance. In this space, she is enough, simply as she is. Mira leans in, closing the distance between them, her lips brushing theirs in a kiss that is slow and deliberate. It is a kiss of affirmation, of gratitude, of longing answered and fears soothed. Their hand remains steady on her head, anchoring her to the present, reminding her that she is cherished. She feels the hum of her own heartbeat in her ears, loud and insistent, a song of life and connection. The room seems to shrink around them, the boundaries dissolving until there is only the warmth of two souls pressed together. Time ceases its endless march, offering instead a moment of stillness. A faint breeze stirs the curtains, bringing with it the scent of night and the promise of new beginnings. The light shifts, dappling across their faces, illuminating the tenderness etched in every line. The world outside is distant, irrelevant. All that matters is here, in the cocoon of shared silence. They pull back just enough to rest their foreheads together, breath mingling in the space between. The touch is intimate, grounding, a silent declaration of trust. In the hush, words become unnecessary. Everything that needs to be said is carried in the softness of their gaze, the steadiness of a hand, the quiet strength of presence. For MIRA, the evening becomes a tapestry of sensation and memory. She recalls the moments that led here, the laughter and the tears, the fears and the triumphs, the gentle coaxing out of truths. She remembers the first time she revealed her vulnerability, the uncertainty that clung to her, and the relief that followed acceptance. Now, as she sits with this person who has seen her through every season, she is aware of the healing that comes from being truly seen. There is comfort in the silence, a sense that nothing must be forced or hurried. They are allowed to simply be, two people joined not by circumstance but by choice. MIRA savors the feeling of connection, the warmth that radiates between them, the knowledge that she is loved not in spite of her differences, but because of them. The tea cools on the table, forgotten. The world outside continues its slow dance, unaware of the sacredness unfolding within these walls. For MIRA, the evening is transformed, no longer just a transition between day and night, but a moment of revelation, a reminder that intimacy is built not only on grand gestures, but on quiet understanding and gentle touch. As the light fades, MIRA and her companion remain, entwined in the comfort of each other's presence. The curtain sways, casting shifting patterns on the floor, and the air grows cooler, promising the arrival of night. Yet inside, warmth persists, a testament to the power of acceptance and the quiet joy of being seen. In this room at this hour, MIRA finds peace. She lets go of the expectations that weigh heavy, the need to pretend. She leans into the certainty offered by the one beside her, allowing herself to be held, not just physically, but emotionally, spiritually. The silence is not empty, but full, rich with meaning, thick with promise. As they sit together, foreheads touching, breaths mingling, MIRA understands that love is not always loud. Sometimes it is found in the gentle stroke of a hand, the quiet words that speak truth, the willing embrace of vulnerability. Sometimes it is simply the choice to remain, to stay present, to offer warmth in the gathering dusk. The evening continues its slow descent into night, but the light inside lingers, undimmed. MIRA rests, safe in the knowledge that she is seen, that she is loved, that in this quiet moment, everything is exactly as it should be. She stands alone, held within the tight embrace of the spotlight, a single figure framed in gold against the vast darkness. The world beyond the stage vanishes, and all that remains is her, the dancer, the woman, the vessel for sound and silence alike. Her body, aware of every beat, every pulse, moves not in obedience to the music, but in counterpoint to it, as if her own rhythm is secret, sacred, untouched by what surrounds her. Her shadow, elongated and monumental, stretches high across the backdrop, echoing her presence in a silent parallel. She crouches low, fingers grazing the stage floor, grounding herself in the moment. The stage is cool, smooth beneath her touch, and she feels the residue of every performance that has ever played out upon these boards. Here, she is both the echo and the origin, every movement a response, every gesture a new beginning. With a measured breath, she unfurls, rising from her crouch, arms spreading wide, fluid and graceful. They open like wings, reaching for something just beyond the light, something only she can see. There is grief etched in her eyes, a history told in the silent tremor of her brow. But her mouth speaks of release, a soft parting of lips, a letting go. She steps backward, slow and deliberate, as if abandoning a weight she has carried for too long. Each step leaves behind a fragment of memory, a piece of pain, a shadow of longing. She traces a slow, perfect circle on the stage, her feet sure and precise. The circle is her boundary, her sanctuary, her ritual. With each step, she claims the space anew, her body a map of intention and resolve. Her hand lifts, hovering above her scalp, a gesture of ownership, a declaration of self. Her head, smooth and gleaming beneath the lights, is a symbol of survival, of transformation, of the battles fought and won. She is not hiding, she is not apologizing, she is present, unadorned, and powerful. Suddenly, the air shifts. She bursts into a flurry of movement, each motion sharp, fierce, and unyielding. Her body twists and turns, limbs slicing through the golden glow, her feet pounding the stage in rapid succession. The echo of her stomps reverberates through the theater, a heartbeat amplified, a call to witness. The drum beat grows louder, faster, pushing her onward, urging her spirit to the surface. She moves with the drum, every turn of her body catching the light, her hairless head flashing like a beacon. She is raw, exposed, and beautiful in her vulnerability. She drops to her knees, chest heaving with exertion, the crescendo of movement leaving her breathless. Her hands open wide, fingers trembling, reaching for something unseen, something beyond the tangible. The audience feels the urgency, the aching desire woven through every gesture. Then, without warning, the music falls away. Silence descends, thick and heavy, filling the theater with anticipation. She moves slowly now, as if submerged in water, each gesture languid, deliberate, and haunting. Time seems to warp, stretch, and dissolve, and her movements become memories, fading, elusive, bittersweet. Her arms float upward, hands reaching high above her head, a final act of surrender. A single tear escapes, tracing a luminous path down her cheek, catching the light in its descent. It is a testament to all she holds within, all she has chosen to reveal. She lowers her arms, palms open to the audience, an offering of herself, of her story, of her truth. Her eyes scan the rows of faces, meeting their gaze without flinching, inviting them into the quiet aftermath of her journey. Stillness settles over the theater, a hush so profound it feels like the world has stopped turning. For a moment, nothing moves. No breath, no whisper, no shift in the shadows. The connection between dancer and audience is palpable, a thread of empathy stretched across the darkness. The drum returns, one final deep note, sounding through the silence like a heartbeat. It is an ending and a beginning, a punctuation mark on the story she has told. She draws in one last breath, filling her lungs with the weight and lightness of it all, and bows her head in quiet reverence. The spotlight fades, shrinking the circle of gold until it is nothing, leaving only the memory of her presence. Darkness settles, enveloping the stage, the dancer, the audience. For a moment, the theater holds its breath, suspended between worlds. Then, as if released from a spell, applause erupts, a wave of gratitude, awe, and recognition crashing through the silence. It is fierce and unrelenting, a celebration of what has been witnessed, what has been felt, yet she does not return for a bow. Her absence becomes its own gesture, a final note in the symphony of movement and quiet. She trusts in what has been shared, in what has been understood. The audience remains, changed, holding on to the echo of her dance, the imprint of her story. In the afterglow, the theater is not quite the same. Her movements linger in the air, traces of gold and shadow woven into the fabric of the space. The circle she drew remains, invisible but indelible, a map of courage, grief, release, and ownership. Those who watched carry a piece of her with them, a reminder of vulnerability, resilience, and the power of presence. The silence after applause holds its own meaning, a space for reflection, for understanding. In that quiet, the boundaries between performer and witness blur, and the story becomes communal, shared. The memory of her movements, her stillness, her final bolus exit lives on in every heart, a testament to the beauty and strength found in showing up, in letting go, in moving forward. And so, the dancer's pulse continues, unseen but felt, guiding her and those who watch through the darkness and into the possibility of light. In the heart of the city, where opulence dances with ambition, the grand hall gleams under 1,000 points of light. Crystal chandeliers hang from vaulted ceilings, their facets scattering brilliance across walls draped in gold and velvet. Every detail whispers of elegance and tradition, a sanctuary for the celebrated and the aspiring alike. Tonight, the space thrums with energy, a congregation of fame and fortune, laughter and expectation swirling beneath the shimmering canopy. Celebrities glide across the polished floors, their sequin-studded attire catching the light, each movement sending ripples of color through the crowd. Laughter rises in sparkling bursts, mingling with the hum of animated conversation. Cameras flash in staccato rhythm, capturing moments destined for headlines and memories. Amidst this spectacle, in the middle row, MIRA sits quietly, a figure of serene composure. Her simple black dress stands out amid the riot of color and embellishment, its understated elegance drawing the eye precisely because it does not clamor for attention. Her bald head, gleaming softly beneath the gentle lighting, radiates a kind of beauty that does not depend on adornment. Some cameras, curious and respectful, turn toward her as intermittent flashes punctuate the air. Whispers ripple through the crowd, voices tinged with awe and uncertainty. "Look at her! So bold!" The words float, half admiration, half wonder. MIRA's smile is gentle, almost secret. She keeps her gaze steady, refusing to shrink beneath the scrutiny, her posture calm and dignified. She sits alone, yet she is not lonely. The host, resplendent in a tailored suit, steps up to the microphone, commanding the room's attention. The next category is announced, anticipation building. An envelope is opened slowly, each motion deliberate, the tension palpable. The winner's name echoes, ringing clear and true. MIRA! A wave of applause erupts, surprise and admiration mixing in the air. MIRA stands, her movements unhurried, confidence radiating from every inch. She walks to the stage, each step measured and assured. The spotlight follows her, casting long shadows that fall behind, leaving the past in darkness as she steps into the present. She accepts the award with a gentle nod, her hands steady, her eyes luminous with gratitude. Microphone in hand, she begins to speak. Her voice is clear, steady, carrying the weight of her journey and the power of her message. She thanks those who have supported her, honoring the kindness and encouragement that lifted her through difficult times. She acknowledges those who challenged her, recognizing the role of adversity in forging resilience. Her words flow, sincere and unvarnished. She speaks of power beyond appearance, of strength found in transformation. She tells of courage, the kind that comes not from conquest, but from surrender. The bravery required to let go of the familiar and embrace the unknown. Her story is not just about loss, but about discovery. The audience listens, some wiping tears from their eyes, others nodding in quiet respect. Her presence is magnetic, her authenticity undeniable. She concludes with a call to embrace authenticity, urging those before her to look beyond the surface, to find beauty in truth and dignity in vulnerability. The applause swells, filling the room with warmth and admiration. MIRA returns to her seat, the world around her subtly altered. Eyes that once questioned now gleam with respect. Curiosity transformed into recognition. A famous dancer leans over, whispering, "Congratulations," her tone genuine, her smile warm. MIRA nods in gratitude, an unspoken bond forming in the shared space of the moment. Her phone vibrates discreetly, messages of support pouring in from fans around the world. Words of encouragement and celebration, echoes of her impact. MIRA takes a quiet breath, letting the moment sink into her bones, letting herself be present in its quiet power. A young dancer approaches, eyes shining with admiration and hope. MIRA offers a small, encouraging smile, a gesture rich with meaning. Cameras continue to capture her every move, documents of a transformation played out in real time. Yet the weight of expectation, once heavy on her shoulders, now seems to lift, replaced by a gentle sense of freedom. Nearby, a journalist eagerly scribbles notes, preparation for an interview. MIRA declines politely, choosing silence for now, honoring her own need for reflection over the demands of publicity. The ceremony continues, voices rising and falling, but MIRA remains centered, serene, a quiet anchor in a sea of ambition. As the applause fades, replaced by the soft murmur of conversation, MIRA stands and moves toward the exit. The red carpet awaits outside, a gauntlet of flashes and admiration. She walks through, dignified and unapologetic, her presence commanding yet approachable. Fans reach out, some with tears of gratitude, others with radiant smiles. She pauses, signing an autograph, a brief connection that lingers in the heart. The cool night air greets her as she steps outside, the city's pulse humming softly in the background. Mira looks up at the stars, feeling lighter than ever. A gentle breeze brushes her scalp, tender as a benediction, a reminder of all that she has overcome. She inhales deeply, the air crisp, her spirit open to the new chapter unfolding before her. Her phone lights up again, a cascade of messages. She silences it. Choosing presence over distraction, she walks away from the spotlight, not to hide, but to embrace a horizon that stretches beyond fame, beyond expectation. The city hums quietly behind her, her steps echoing with purpose and clarity. Mira's journey has reached a new horizon, one defined not by the applause of others, but by the quiet certainty within herself. High atop a mountain, Mira stands at the edge, the vast sky stretching endlessly above her. The wind picks up, carrying the scent of pine and earth, a touch of wildness in the air. She closes her eyes, tilts her face upward, embracing the breeze. It brushes her bare scalp softly, tender as a kiss, and she feels the world's embrace. The distant call of an eagle echoes, wild and free, a reminder of the boundless possibilities before her. Her lips part slightly, a slow breath escaping in quiet reverence. She speaks, her voice calm and resolute. "I lost what they called my crown." The words linger, heavy with meaning. She opens her eyes, meeting the horizon with unwavering focus. "And in return, I found my kingdom." She spreads her arms wide, welcoming the openness around her, the mountain, the sky, the world at her feet. She stands radiant and free, small against the vastness, yet infinite in possibility. Mira's journey is not just survival, it is transformation. She has claimed her own kingdom, and in doing so, invites all who witness her story to seek their own.